Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the formal meeting of the Asheville City Council. I would just ask that if you could just take one moment to ensure that your phone is either on vibrate, silent, or off so it will not disrupt the proceedings. I would sincerely appreciate that. Thank you all so very much. If we could stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance together.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight, council and community, we're in for a treat. We have a song this afternoon by the Song O Sky Chorus of Sweet Adelines International, who's going to bless us tonight with a song. And so if you would come forward, ladies. I'm so happy they didn't ask me to join in tonight because it will be quite embarrassing. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so very much for being here. And after you are complete, we would love to have your name for public record. And so we'll invite you to the mic. And I must say, you look very lovely tonight.
Indeed.
Oh, that's Jan Davis, usually live. Sorry.
Yeah, it is. And I agree. You used it well.
Thank you. If you could just state your name for the record, I would sincerely appreciate it. Ladies, if you would just use the microphone and just state your name for the record so we can have it as a permanent part of Asheville's history.
And talk. You better not give me free license. Wendy Bell.
Thank you, Ms. Bell.
Francis Ogasawara.
Margaret Tickle. Alice Green.
Alice Cottrell.
Dot Schneider.
Lee Hines.
Barbara Reed. Leslie Bradshaw.
Beverly Simpson Martin.
Maxine Ramsey.
Sylvia Easterling.
Jane Briggs. Mary Joy Fradiani.
Thank you.
Judy Davis. Betty Parham.
Sharon LeDuc, Song of Sky chapter of Sweet Adelines has been here for almost 40 years, part of an international organization, and we just last weekend finished our competition in Winston-Salem, so we're honored to be here to sing.
And how did it go?
Sharon LeDuc, yeah.
How did the competition?
It was interesting. We're going through an expansion, bringing in our boundaries will expand. We go up to Washington D.C. now, our region, and that's what the competition and pick goes down to Atlanta. So we had, I think, we had 16 choruses that competed this year, and I think, what was it, 18?
And how did you do?
We did about the same as last year. We're one of the smaller choruses, so we want to grow. So this is giving us some publicity, we hope. So yes.
Y'all come back anytime.
And someone could call. And what do they call if they are interested in joining? What's the phone number? Or website or email?
Phone number? Who's got it memorized? We have a website, songosky.org.
Thank you.
And I'm the newest to the group. I'm the director, Sherry Sprague, and I actually hail from Bangor, Maine, but I now live in Hendersonville.
Welcome, welcome. Again, thank you so very much, ladies. It was wonderful. The next item on the agenda is the invocation, and I have the honor of doing the invocation this evening. And before I give the invocation, we will have a moment of silence for the lives that were lost in Boston as well as Texas on last week. Those who will, please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity together once again as representatives of this city. We ask that you be with us in our meeting, that we will make the decisions that will lead us in the right direction, that the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. God, we ask that you bless those in our community who are working and those who are helping to provide safety for our community, those who are without homes in our community, those who are downtrodden, and help them to a better place. God, we ask that as we're gathered here tonight, and that this time is spent on working together and finding common causes and finding great solutions to move our community forward. Help us to operate in harmony and forgiveness. And these things we ask in your Son's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
There are a lot of things happening in our month. We have several proclamations this evening, and so I solicited counsel to get some assistance in making some of these proclamations become a part of our history and our public record. And so tonight we're calling on Councilman Bothwell to declare April 2013 as Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month. and Jim and Nancy Hall will receive the proclamation.
Welcome. I feel particularly honored to be able to read this proclamation because my father suffered with Parkinson's disease, so I'm very, very familiar with the disease and the progression and what families need to deal with and what individuals have to cope with. Whereas Parkinson's disease is a chronic progressive neurological disease and it is the second most common neurological disease in the United States, and whereas there is inadequate comprehensive data on the incidence and prevalence of Parkinson's disease, and it's estimated that the disease affects 500,000 to 1,500,000 people in the United States, and the prevalence will more than double by 2040. And whereas it is estimated that the economic burden of Parkinson's disease is $14.4 billion, including indirect costs to patients and family members of $6.3 billion each year. And whereas, although research suggests the cause of Parkinson's disease is a combination of genetic and environmental factors, the exact cause and progression of the disease is still unknown. And whereas there is no objective test or biomarker for Parkinson's disease and the rate of misdiagnosis can be high, and there is no cure, therapy, or drug to slow or halt the progression of Parkinson's disease. And whereas the symptoms of Parkinson's disease vary from person to person and include tremors, slowness of movement, difficulty with balance, swallowing, chewing, speaking, rigidity, cognitive impairment, dementia, mood disorders such as depression and anxiety, constipation, skin problems, and sleep difficulties. And whereas increased education and research are needed to find more effective treatments with fewer side effects and ultimately an effective treatment or cure for Parkinson's disease. Now therefore I, Terry Bellamy, Mayor of the City of Asheville, do hereby proclaim April 2013 as Parkinson's Disease Month in the City of Asheville and encourage all citizens to raise their awareness of this disease. In witness whereof I have set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Asheville to be affixed on this 23rd day of Asheville, 2013.
Thank you, Councilman Bockwell. My husband, Jim Hall, who has had Parkinson's for 19 years, will speak.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are people aware that on March 1st, federal funding for biomedical research was reduced when automatic across-the-board cuts or sequestration took place? I think we need to increase funding for biomedical research, not less. I attended a national conference on Parkinson's disease in Washington, D.C. in February. 4 other North Carolina residents and I met with most of North Carolina's members of Congress or their health aides. Their position on National Institutes of Health biomedical research varied. One health aide said her member of Congress thought funding for the NIH should not only be maintained, but should be increased. One member of Congress questioned the value of biomedical research and didn't think the federal government should support it because they don't always get the results they want. I was a research chemist. In research, one searches. If you don't get the results you want, you search again. When I was a child, people died and were paralyzed because of polio. When my children were growing young, they received polio vaccines developed by Jonas Salk. If he had stopped when his initial research wasn't successful, polio might still be a problem today. We need Parkinson's, cancer, Alzheimer's, and other diseases conquered like polio was. Parkinson's disease costs our country at least $14 billion a year without a treatment to slow or stop its progression. These costs are expected to increase. It is cost effective to invest money in biomedical research. I think the cuts in biomedical research funding should be repealed. Please consider contacting your member of Congress and telling them your position on the federal funding for NIH biomedical research. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce our current president of our Asheville Parkinson's Support Group, Mikhail Hansen, and his wife, Judith. I don't know if Dick Poor is here today. He is our past president, and we're very fortunate to have a very active support group in Asheville.
Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for standing up for Parkinson's victims and to speak in favor of medical research. I won't say which party it was, but my father changed political parties because the party he was a member of defunded research on Parkinson's disease in the 1980s. And he, from the rest of his life, voted for the other party because he believed in medical research. So your plea really touches my heart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to come here? How are we going to do it? Mayor, why don't you go be right beside Jim and Jill? And, all right, okay. I think you get right next to Dad. Thank you.
Ms. Merrill, thank you for being our photographer today. Thank you all so very much. And if you can go out this door.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's good seeing you again. The next order of business this evening is declaring April 21st through the 27th, 2013 as Administrative Professionals Week. And Mary Ann Shearer will accept the proclamation. That's it, right? Yes. This proclamation reads, whereas administrative professionals play an essential role in coordinating the office operations of business, government, and educational institutions and other organizations. And whereas the work of administrative professionals today requires advanced knowledge and expertise in communications, computer software, office technology, project management, organization, customer service, and other vital office management responsibilities. And whereas Administrative Professionals Week is observed annually in workplaces around the world to recognize the important contributions of administrative support staff and is sponsored by the International Association of Administrative Professionals. And whereas Administrative Professionals Week 2013 is focused on honoring the office professionals who make offices work, reflecting the integral and central role that office professionals play in modern business. Now, therefore, I, Terry Bellamy, Mayor of the beautiful city of Asheville, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the week April 21st through 27th, 2013 as Administrative Professionals Week in the city of Asheville and call on all employers to support continued training and development for administrative staff, recognizing that a well-trained workforce is essential for success in today's business world. It has the city seal, my signature, making it official.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So are we going to have some boss exchange days or something like that? Come tell us about what we're going to do this week.
On behalf of the Land of the Sky chapter of the International Association of Administrative Professionals, I thank you very much for this proclamation. Thank you.
We have a few more, and tonight we're going to declare May 2013 as Foster Care Appreciation Month. And Ms. Foster, thank you again for coming this year. And Councilman Smith is going to read the proclamation as a counselor. I know he speaks to various family members and probably could tell us a little bit more.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks for being here tonight and for doing what you do. Whereas families serve as the primary source of love, identity, self-esteem, and support and represent the very foundation of our community. And whereas in Buncombe County, the lives of hundreds of children and families are disrupted every year by crisis or safety issues in their homes. And whereas in Buncombe County, there are over 200 children and youth placed in foster care, which provides a temporary, safe, secure, and stable home with a compassionate and nurturing foster or kinship care family. And whereas foster and kinship care families in Buncombe County open their homes and hearts to children whose families are in crisis, play a vital role helping children and families heal and reconnect, and prepare children for successful adulthood. And whereas foster and kinship care families are an invaluable resource and perform an extraordinary service by working in partnership with families, children, and service providers to nurture children and provide an opportunity for healthy growth, development, and permanence. Now, therefore, Terry M. Bellamy, Mayor of the City of Asheville, does hereby proclaim the month of May 2013 as Foster Care Appreciation Month in Asheville, North Carolina, and calls upon all citizens to recognize the important role that foster and kinship care families play in the life of our community and consider how they can utilize their talent and energies on behalf of children in foster care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can you say a few words?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Bellamy and council members. What I would like to say is that when I provided these statistics, they're now old statistics. He read that there are over 200 children in foster care. That's true, but to get a better idea, right now there are over 280 children in foster care. So what I would like to do is put out a plea to the community to step up to the plate to help care for our children in our community. People have the opportunity to become foster parents. And it's a job that's not taken lightly. It's probably the most challenging work that you'll do to help support kids who are in care. Also, kinship families help to take care of their children who are in foster care as well. And I just want to thank those people who are currently foster parents and those kinship care providers. Children are in our custody in Buncombe County, and we have that duty to make sure that they are taken care of in a loving and safe home. If anybody has ever thought about or considered becoming a foster parent, I would urge you just to call and get some more information. The call is free. There's no obligation. If you've considered it, you can just call us and get more information, or email us and we'll respond that way. Our phone number is 828-250-5868, and the email address is familiesforkids@buncombecounty.org. Thank you.
Next, we're going to declare April 2013 as Fair Housing Month, and Sarah Nunez and Robin Merrill and Richard Bolden will accept the proclamation, and the chair of the H Housing Community Development Committee will present this proclamation. Jan Davis.
Thank you. Proclamations are really a neat thing because it gives us an insight into what makes a community special, and I think having champions of fair housing here is a big part of that. And these people are real champions of fair housing, and it's an honor to work with you on a regular basis. So I appreciate the opportunity to read the proclamation. Whereas April marks the anniversary of the passage of the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which sought to eliminate discrimination in housing opportunities and to affirmatively further housing choices for all Americans, and whereas the ongoing struggle for dignity and housing opportunity for all is not the exclusive province of the federal government, and whereas vigorous local efforts to combat discrimination can be as effective, if not more effective, than federal efforts, and whereas illegal barriers to equal opportunity in housing, no matter how subtle, diminish the rights of all, and whereas the city's partnership with the Asheville-Buncombe Community Relations Council has led to the expanded outreach and education of fair housing laws, and whereas strong collaborations among local and statewide entities such as the Asheville-Buncombe Community Relations Council, Physical Legal Services, and the North Carolina Human Relations Commission has led to increased awareness of fair housing laws. Now, therefore, Terry M. Bellamy, Mayor of the City of Asheville, do hereby proclaim April 2013 as Fair Housing Month in the City of Asheville, and encourages all agencies, institutions, and individuals to take action to end unlawful housing discrimination. In witness whereof, she has hereto set her hand and caused the City of Asheville, North Carolina, to be affixed to this 26th day of April 2013. Robin, thank you. Richard, who gets the proclamation? And you're all welcome to speak. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't see the camera.
There's a couple of, at least one more board member who can come up.
Here, another board.
Ashley, come on.
Now, who wants to speak? In fact, all of them.
I'd like to invite Richard Bolden, who's the legal counsel for the North Carolina Human Relations Commission, to say a few words. All of you know Robin and myself very well, so would like to introduce you to Richard.
Hi, thank you for inviting me tonight. Thank you for that wonderful proclamation, and Mayor. I am Richard Bolden. I am the agency counsel to the North Carolina Human Relations Commission. I bring greetings from our commissioners and from Secretary of Administration Daughtridge. Our commission is part of the State Department of Administration. We appreciate the tremendous efforts that Asheville and Buncombe County have made to support fair housing. We appreciate them greatly. We always have a wonderful time when we come out here to help with any of the events that Sarah and Robin put together for us. So again, we thank you.
Our last proclamation this evening is declaring May 2013 as Motorcycle Awareness Month, and Roger Coleman will accept this proclamation. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay.
Dean McGinnis.
Hey,
My riding partner.
Oh, it's nice to meet you. I'm co-owner of a bike, of a Harley, but I don't ride it. Not at all.
You got some say-so though, huh?
I have a little say-so. This proclamation reads, whereas the statewide Motorcyclist Awareness and Bike and Rider Training Program was designed to enable the Concerned Bikers Association, CBA, to work with the membership and the community to expand safety and awareness to the rider and the motorist. Whereas CBA and ABATE of North Carolina is the oldest motorcyclist rights organization in our state. And whereas CBA strives to educate the average citizen, the legislators, the law enforcement agencies, and the motorcyclist on the true facts and motorcycling while lobbying for the efforts of all the motorcyclists in the state. And whereas CBA members are available to give presentations in high schools and before groups and organizations to educate average citizens about sharing the road with motorcycles. Now, therefore, I, Terry Bellamy, Mayor of the City of Asheville, do hereby proclaim May 2013 as Motorcycle Awareness Month in Asheville and urge all Asheville residents to recognize the importance of the special observance with appropriate ceremonies and activities. It has the city seal and my signature, making it official.
Thank you very much.
You might want to talk to people about sharing the road and all that good stuff, and look twice and all that.
That's right. We watch for motorcycles. Thank you very much, Mayor Bellamy and the entire City Council. Really appreciate you preparing and presenting this proclamation to us. Not only Concerned Bikers Association, but all the motorcyclists throughout North Carolina appreciate it. Excuse me. These mountains here are a destination point for motorcyclists from around the world, actually, throughout the United States, too. They all come here to ride these roads and experience the communities, hospitalities, and they provide a positive financial impact along the way, staying in the hotels and eating in the restaurants and so forth. Our Concerned Bikers Association mission is to promote motorcycle awareness, safety, and legislation throughout the state. Last year, our motorcycle organization presented safety awareness program to over 2,000 driver's ed students in the Buncombe County high schools throughout western North Carolina, actually. And in this year, 2013, we're going to have billboards throughout the county with the message, watch for motorcycles, and we're going to distribute over 2,000 of these bumper stickers around at various events we attend and that. So once again, I do appreciate it, and leave you a bumper sticker and put in a car there. Thank you. All right, thanks a lot.
Council, our next order of business is our consent agenda. Any member of the community wishing to address council on any item that's listed on the consent agenda, you can do so at this time. Items A through G. Seeing no one coming forward. Council, any questions, comments, or a motion about the consent agenda?
I'm sorry, Mayor. Did you want to add?
Oh, we have a couple of things to add to the consent agenda. One is the meeting schedule date
I think that's the only one, isn't it?
for the work session on Friday, May 17th, first floor of this building, 10 o'clock. Add that to the agenda.
And I had one point of clarification about one of the things on the agenda.
Okay.
If we, when we pass this resolution supporting the Asheville-Buncombe Regional Sports Commission efforts to host the Ironman Triathlon, we aren't committing the city to fund the public safety. I mean, that'll be up in the next budget year, right? So that's...
No, this request is purely just a letter of endorsement. Part of it is talking about getting them to even consider coming to Asheville. We were put on a long list, and now it's a shorter list, and we continue to be on a list.
Right.
And so if anything that's requested, it would come through the regular channels of Parks and Rec Department would hear from the Sports Commission to say,
right,
would you consider these things? And so it's not automatic that what the needs are, because it wouldn't just impact the city of Asheville.
Okay, I just want to make that clear in case anybody had questions.
Councilman Davis.
Citizens.
I appreciate that question, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak about it just a bit. This is a huge opportunity. It's a large economic development opportunity, and that's the thing that we've talked so much about, is improving economic development inside the city and in the region. And we have great partners in doing this. The Asheville-Buncombe Regional Sports Commission, Tourism Development Authority, Buncombe County. We're all in this, and there are a number of people in the room. I think that I see Stephanie Brown and see Diana back there. Anyhow, if there's an opportunity, if any of those folks would like to speak further about it, we'd love to have them. Otherwise, this is a tremendous partnership, and hopefully we will be successful in doing this event in the city.
I hope so. David, Chairman Gant and myself did a promo yesterday encouraging the support, or encouraging the committee to choose Asheville as the destination because of the economic impact of the room nights, the restaurant support, because what we found is because it's a multi-day event, it will have a huge economic impact on the region. It wouldn't just be Asheville.
I think one of the interesting notes, there are normally about anywhere from 2,500 to 3,000 entrants in this event, and they come and stay for several days and visit the community several times during the year. Usually by the time the event comes around, it will be less than that because of injuries. These people are going to do some amazing things, and it's a great opportunity to have them and their families come to the community in September.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the additional consent agenda item?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. Thank you, Council. The next order of business are our updates under presentations and reports, and the first one is from one of our committees, the Sustainable Advisory Committee for Energy and the Environment. Duncan McPherson will make the presentation. Welcome, Mr. McPherson.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. I am Duncan McPherson, the chair of the Sustainable Advisory Committee on Energy and Environment, also known as SACE. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all tonight and give you an update on basically what we've been up to in the past year or so and what we're looking at moving forward. I'd also like to speak briefly at the end of my time about some of the longer-term budget issues that I know you guys are dealing with on a regular basis. So first off, I need to thank our liaison, Councilman Bothwell, as well as the excellent leadership we've received for years from our staff liaison, Maggie Ullman. A little bit about who our committee is. We are a diverse group of members. We have architect, landscape architect, urban planner, civil engineers, construction industry representative, Advantage West economic development representative, graphic design and marketing, a representative from the Buncombe County Planning Department, as well as from the PNC Gas Utility. And our membership requires a diverse amount of knowledge and expertise because we are a bit of a unique commission, in our opinion at least, in that we really have an incredibly broad, wide-ranging task. Sustainability is inherently an incredibly broad-ranging issue that pretty much touches on just about every issue that the city is trying to address. And it really comes into play with the overall goals of the city and the triple bottom line. It's hard for us to know sometimes where our role stops and starts in various issues because our responsibilities can range from everything to looking at which plants are the best bee pollinating plants for the UDO, to looking at tax policy for encouraging energy efficiency retrofits or renewable energy. So we're wearing a lot of hats, and as a result, we're really looking at that triple bottom line of economy, environment, and social equity, which pretty much covers everything. So with that introduction, I'll give you a quick review of what we were up to last year, which you can also see in the report that we passed along, I believe, in February. Some of the 2012 accomplishments include helping to create the Land Use Incentive Grant, which I'm going to talk a little bit about a little bit later. We also updated the recommended plant list in the UDO, which included, for the first time, bee pollinating plants, as well as edible species, drought-resistant species, and other native species. So developers can use that as a tool when they're landscaping new projects. We also updated the lighting ordinance for the UDO, which was a highly technical process, primarily because of the new LED street lights that were being implemented. And we needed the lighting ordinance to reflect this new technology for the street lights, but also for other LED lighting, whether it be in buildings or landscapes in new development. We took a look at trying to find a way to really initiate better information sharing as a whole for our committee. And one of the ways we did that last year was to begin to present to other advisory commissions in the city. And so we invited ourselves to Planning and Zoning. They welcomed us, of course. And also presented to the Greenways Commission, and really in an effort to try and reach out and make sure all of these citizen advisory groups really understand what the left and right hand are doing. We're dealing with, particularly our commission, a lot of overlapping issues. So we really wanted to encourage that kind of cross-pollinating. That continues to be a goal for us in 2013, which I'll talk about in a moment. So we also looked at establishing a plastic bags subcommittee last year, and really trying to research how the best way is to reduce plastic bag use in the city. We think about plastic bags as a nuisance in our gutters, and we see them stuck in our trees, and they end up in our rivers. But we took a field trip to the Buncombe County landfill last year as well, and we realized that plastic bags are even a nuisance at the landfill. The landfill's got cages and fences set up all over it to keep the plastic bags from flying off into the neighboring properties. All of the trucks had plastic bags bound up into their axles. And some of the folks we talked to at the landfill said, yeah, this is a problem for us. So we're looking at partnering with the county and finding ways to reduce the use of plastic bags in the city moving forward for next year as well. We also were engaged in the development of the expanded recycling program, working with Kathy Ball and other staff, and we're really proud of that was a very gratifying task for us to work on because we were able to see it get rolled out literally with the new Big Blue bins, as well as really see the impact that it had on the community and the increase in volume of recycling that we saw last year. And the majority of our time was really spent on the food policy issue that you as City Council brought to our table. And we worked with the Buncombe County, or the Asheville-Buncombe Food Policy Council, and developed the action plan which was adopted by you all in the City of Asheville. So that was 2012. And looking forward to 2013, the rest of 2013, we had our strategic planning meeting in January and established 4 primary goals for 2013. The first is to expand the focus of the Sustainability Management Plan, which is the 5 years old strategy document that has done an excellent job of greening how the city operates. But what we're looking at is how we can revisit that, update it, and look at how we can also green the services that the city's providing. So taking it to the next step. Our second goal is again revisiting this idea of trying to improve our communication to other advisory groups as well as the community at large and to you all as well. We really think a stronger dialogue would really help some of the efforts and make us a more effective commission. Some of the ways that we're doing that really does parallel the way some of the city departments have been restructured in the past year, and we were happy to see we were really in sync with what other folks were thinking at the city on the staff level especially. So we have been invited to join the new Multimodal Transportation Commission that Kathy Ball is still developing. We'll have a chair at that table. We are also invited by Lauren Bradley to participate in the Joint Boards and Commissions meeting that currently we're looking at attending quarterly. And so I think everybody's thinking the same thing in that we really need to get out of our silos and start talking to each other a little bit more. Let's all get in the same room every once in a while and make sure that we're taking advantage of all the expertise we have with these citizen advisory groups. Our third policy, or our third goal for policy advisory next year or this coming year is to continue to reduce solid waste in the community. We made great strides with the recycling last year, but we want to keep going with it. We're looking at a feasibility for how we could research what composting might look like. That may be a long road down. We realize that expanding city services is probably not something we're going to be talking about in the short term. But looking at what the feasibility would be for a composting program, perhaps it's a private entity, perhaps it's a partnership with the county. There are a few other communities in the country that have established this, so I think it's worth beginning to lay the groundwork in researching. We're also looking at downtown recycling, which we were quickly found out from Kathy Ball again that the city staff is already working on that. So we're pleased that we're going to be getting downtown recycling eventually along the streets and sidewalks and the downtown residents. So one of the other thoughts we had for looking at waste reduction is thinking about just simply setting a waste reduction goal. We established in 2007, I believe, a carbon reduction goal to try and address the global warming issues at a local level here. So we could do the same thing with establishing a simple measuring stick for waste reduction. And we have the Zero Waste AVL effort, which I think is tremendous. And zero waste is the end goal, but we've got to have some incremental steps in between. And if we have a goal set in front every year, I think that'll help us get there. Finally, our fourth goal that we established as a committee is to look at how we can increase the local influence of purchasing power and decision making. Now, we realize that this has some hurdles legislatively at the state level, and we realize the climate at the state level is not necessarily the most conducive right now, but we do feel like it's a conversation that's worth having, worth starting, and really looking at how we can retain and support the local produced capital that we have right here. We've got workforce, we've got talent, we've got entrepreneurs, and if we can find a way to take better advantage of them when the city is looking to hire goods and services, we can keep those dollars right here. Can I continue?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So those are our 4 primary goals, and of course, welcome any other tasks and goals that you have for us in the coming year. And lastly, I want to speak a little bit about the budget challenges that I know you guys are dealing with today, tomorrow, and unfortunately in years to come. And it is those long-term challenges that I want to speak about very briefly. Lauren Bradley came and presented to our commission about a month ago, and primarily presented the Crossroads paper and giving us an update on where things are. And she gave that presentation where it included the graph of the divergent lines. You guys know it very well. We've got our revenue on one projection, we've got our expenses on another. And it was a very powerful graphic. It helped us realize that, okay, we can do some short-term problem solving, but we've got a bigger long-term issue. And how can we start to address it? And the other thing that Lauren Bradley mentioned in that presentation that was a good reminder to us was that cities are in the business of land use and quality of life. And so I start thinking about connecting these dots of revenue stream and land use and quality of life. And what comes to my mind is we really need to start revisiting the sustainable or the development incentives we have in place here at the city. And I know that there's about 10 or 12 existing development incentives. And I think looking to how we can resharpen those tools and make them easier to use is an important feature. And one thing we want to make sure we do as we look at these incentives is to make sure we don't compromise the other goals we have as a community. And that brings me to the sustainable development incentives, the 2 that we worked on as a committee over the past several years, being the sustainable density bonus and the land use incentive grant that I mentioned earlier. And these 2 tools in particular really embody the triple bottom line principles. We're talking about development that includes affordability, healthy communities, environmental stewardship, green building, energy efficiency, helping to rebuild our urban infrastructure. And so I encourage you all to look at those incentives, and I encourage you all to use us as a tool to rebuild those and help promote them to the developers and the audience that we seek.
All right. It sounds like you set forth a good course of action for us to pursue, and I think through the multimodal committee, some of that will come up through that work, as well as looking at your work plan, working with staff. Some of those issues will come forward. I know that we have tasked staff to look at the UDL and look at economic development opportunities, and I think that's happening. So I think it's a very timely presentation that you've just made, and I think that Ms. Bradley, through her role, is looking at ways to provide economic development incentives and looking at those tools, working with planning and how they dovetail together. So very timely. She may have told you to say those things to us, so we'll have an ear to hear what you were saying. Council, questions about the wonderful work Stacey's been doing for us?
I'd just make one comment, and that is that at our retreat this year, we talked about how really a green approach to development and to all of our city services and to every decision we make, we're basing those decisions on the idea of multimodal transportation, on the idea of reducing our footprint, on the idea of having the best social outcomes and all that triple bottom line. And in light of that, I've begun to really appreciate the idea you raised, which is that SACE really connects with everything in the city. I mean, in some ways, it's the most comprehensive committee because it fits into every silo, or it reaches into every silo. And it's been fun. I've really been glad to be the liaison to that committee. It's one of my favorite meetings each month, is to get over there and,
Well, good.
hear new ideas.
I know Councilman Smith has to send the kudos at least.
I do. That's exactly right. I really appreciate the work that y'all did with the Asheville Local Food Policy Council, bringing that food action plan in such a timely way and really bringing us a foundational document that now has risen to one of the city's top strategic priorities after our strategic operating plan retreat earlier this year. And I just want you to be able to pass on to the membership that their work is not only going to make us a greener, more cost-effective city, but that the work that y'all did will directly impact hunger and food security here in Asheville.
Excellent. Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. The next order of business is our legislative and water updates from Mr. Jeff Richardson. And council, there is a resolution for consideration at the completion of his presentation to us this evening. Mr. Richardson?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, members of City Council, my name is Jeff Richardson, and I certainly appreciate the ongoing opportunity to be here on a regular basis to give you an update on legislative activity in Raleigh regarding our water system, as well as other House and or Senate bills that may affect Asheville. I would say at the beginning of this presentation tonight that we've been coming before the council now for several months as the General Assembly has continued to move forward literally hundreds of bills in a number of areas. And tonight I'm only going to mention to the council the bills that have gotten the most attention and could have the most impact on our fiscal situation either in this current year or next year. We do have a matrix on our website, on the AshevilleNC.gov website. That matrix has a more in-depth outline of the various House and Senate bills that affect local government in some way or another, and would encourage our citizenry to take a look at that. First tonight, House Bill 488, the regionalization of public utilities. This is the bill that now has made its way to the Senate Finance Committee. And I believe tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Mr. Jackson, our city manager, will be making his way to Raleigh early tomorrow morning, and he will be before the Senate Finance Committee tomorrow at 1 o'clock to speak on this bill. This would transfer...
For 2 minutes. You need
for
to,
two, yes,
for 2
ma'am.
minutes. That's how much time.
Would be my best speech ever.
Transferring control of the water system to a regional entity. House Bill 252, which is tied closely to our Asheville water system. This would repeal the Sullivan Act amendment and would disallow the city of Asheville to continue to transfer 5% of the utility revenues for street and sidewalk improvements associated with water line improvements. I would note to council that we have not budgeted this money for next budget year in anticipation of this bill moving forward into law, and our capital budget does not reflect that transfer at this time. House Bill 224, we have previously talked to City Council about this. This is Asheville Extraterritorial Jurisdiction and Annexation, ETJ, and it continues to move forward. That would relinquish ETJ in Buncombe County, and the bill would also prevent Asheville from initiating any non-voluntary annexation in the future. House Bill 568 is new since the last time that I was before the City Council. This is House Bill 568 is Asheville de-annexation, and it basically provides description of property to be removed from the corporate limits, but would allow the continuation, the validity of ABC permits associated in those areas, and that would include the Asheville Regional Airport. Also, Senate Bill 363 has been before City Council. We continue to track this bill through the General Assembly, and our discussions have led us to conclude that this bill has a strong chance of becoming law, which would basically, effective January 1 of 2015, that would be mid-budget year, not this coming year, but the next. This would disallow cities to levy privilege license taxes. For the city of Asheville, that would be somewhere between $1.4 and $1.7 million loss to our general fund. Senate Bill 394 is and that's $320 million associated statewide with Senate Bill 394, and that would be the tax restructuring bill. City Council and staff has continued to check on this and monitor this as it's made its way. Discussion in Raleigh about it, a lot of interest. and discussions of how that would affect cities and counties on a city and county-wide basis if there was tax restructuring specific to the loss of revenue, and then what our new sales tax might look like, an expanded sales tax base. It's really too early to tell at this time as to how this would affect Asheville and Buncombe County. 962 is a new House bill that was introduced late last week. Municipal sales tax. New Hanover County representative introduced this bill that would allow cities across North Carolina to adopt a half-cent sales tax within the corporate limits, and it would be earmarked for infrastructure improvements and police, fire, and services to support public events and festivals. And again, New Hanover, which lots of similarities between the Wilmington and Asheville area. Don't really know at this point in time what the discussion in Raleigh is overall about this as a potential option for cities across North Carolina.
Jeff, do we know if that's by referendum or by council discretion?
No, sir, I do not. That's a great question. I do not know that. We're going to analyze this closely, and we will get the details of that. Very good question. And another new House Bill, 952, that would basically delay sales tax distribution change effective date, and that would be if a county in North Carolina, if this passes, if a county were to change its methods of sales tax distribution, the effective date would be pushed out. I don't know that that would have any effect. I couldn't see that having an effect on Buncombe County and Asheville, but we'll continue to look at this to see if it moves forward. Finally, House Bill 418, and the City Council is well aware of the Parks Authority bill. The staff has began to analyze this. I know Council has as well. This would, if this moves forward, this would enable the county commissioners to establish a city-county joint Parks and Recreation authority with taxing authority. We will continue to monitor this as well. Senate Bill 612, Regulatory Reform Act. I've spoke to Council about this. This would require DENR to develop minimum design criteria for stormwater runoff permits, including requirement for the siting, site prep, and design and construction. We're continuing to monitor this. It was referred to the Committee on Agriculture, Environment, and Natural Resources on 4-3. New House bill since the last time that we met. I spoke with Jonathan Feldman, our IT Information Services Officer. House Bill 664, Cell Tower Deployment Act. It would limit municipalities' authority to regulate cell tower deployment. Jonathan and his staff is analyzing this. Also, experts from across the state are looking at it. It doesn't look like that it would be favorable for cities.
Putting it there.
House Bill 659, Council, I'm sure you're probably aware of this, county and city ethics, which would require all members of governing boards at a local level to complete a statement of economic interest, and it would have several prohibitions in it as well regarding your position and advertising for private interest and that sort of thing. We'll continue to monitor this bill as well. As Mayor mentioned just prior to my presentation tonight, we have two resolutions for council consideration. The first is Senate Bill 724, and Mr. Ost, I've got that bill right here.
They're in ones, Senate Bill 666 and 667.
We've got two tonight before you. Thank you, sir.
Another one?
The first is Senate Bill 724, and Maggie's going to switch over. And this has been a discussion topic at the Public Safety Committee. This is a resolution in support of Senate Bill 724, House Bill 685, which is a bill that's been introduced in Raleigh that would prohibit imitation controlled substances. Happy to answer any questions that you may have. Our staff has looked at this. Certainly from a law enforcement standpoint, we have looked at it, and it would be very helpful for this resolution to be passed by City Council and sent to Raleigh. We've had some discussion at the Public Safety Committee, and Chairman Bothwell or members of that committee may want to speak to this as well.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. And Council, this is just supporting the bills that have been put in place dealing with the synthetic drugs like Bizarro, and it's been changed several times, and so this would get to eradicating issues where they would change one substance to have a new name, and so it would go under the radar and be a legal substance. So this bill is trying to get to the heart of that and remove any opportunity for them to remove at least one substance and it still being legal. It will all be illegal based upon the compounds of the actual item that's developed. And so they've actually researched what compounds are in these different drugs, and now the combination will make them illegal.
Yes, the police department pointed out to us that enforcement on these synthetics is very, very difficult because they keep changing the formula and the labels and so forth. And when they send them off to the state lab, it can be months before they get it back and then find out that under the current state law, it's not an illegal substance. And so by changing the way it's defined, they think there'll be a lot better ability to control that use. And although I'm personally not a big fan of the drug war, I think it's been a tremendous waste of resources. These are among the worst as far as the behavior they're producing. They're producing psychotic behavior on the part of many users and really causing secondary crime problems. And I think this is a really useful tool. So I'm in favor of this one.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Yes, Mayor, I'd be happy to make a motion. As Councilman Bothwell stated, this has been an area where we've seen especially our transient homeless population at risk of being ending up doing things they wouldn't have normally otherwise done because of the availability of essentially these poisons out on the street. And so I'm very grateful to the senator who brought this forward. I hope it's going to allow us to solve the problem.
Second.
The motion has been made and properly second. Any further questions or comments? Any member of the community wishing to address council on this motion? And before the motion it goes forward, for the record, I do need to state that Representative Moffitt worked hard and diligently on this bill and even spoke with our staff to get information. His staff called our staff to get some information and data, and his staff also called some of the nonprofit service providers who have seen the negative impact of Bizarro on some of their clients. So I would like to put that on the record to give him credit for assisting in the House side of writing this bill.
Very grateful for that action.
So I want to give him kudos as well on the record. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. Council, the other resolution is, Bob, you want to go ahead and go over this one?
I don't have a lot to say about this. This is a and it has not previously been considered by a committee of council, but House Bills 666 and 667 are two bills that were introduced in the Senate. I'm sorry, they are Senate bills. They were introduced in the Senate, and the effect of them is to disallow the deduction for dependents whose residence is not within the is not with the taxpayer claiming the deduction as indicated by the child's by the location of the child's registration to vote. And we're advised the bills have been sent to they've not been passed out of the Senate. We're advised the bills have been sent to the Senate Rules Committee. Also, they were just not well received in general. But this resolution supports early voting and asks the members of the General Assembly to vote against Senate Bills 666 and 667. I don't have the bills with me in the chamber, but I did check the names of the folks who introduced and the sponsors. None of them are our local legislators, as far as I know, and so this is and this request came to me through the mayor, so she may have some more to add.
Just that the students of UNC Asheville are really pushing for our support on this bill. They're concerned that with so many students coming from outside of the city of Asheville, that their parents could be negatively impacted by registering to vote in our community. And so they were asking for our support, and they would also like to continue to have a long period for early voting. And so I'd love to have council support for this.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any member of the community wishing to address council on this particular resolution? All right, council, any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. Thank you, council. Council, we have several public hearings, and
oh, Mayor, I
yes.
have a question for Jeff on one of the legislative pieces. The ETJ piece. Am I correct in understanding that as part of the ETJ, we had two representatives from the county on our planning and zoning board in order to reflect those citizens in the ETJ? It's my understanding, though, that with their doing away with the ETJ, that those seats are retained. I was wondering if you could help me with the rationale for that.
Bob, are you able to speak to that? I'm not meaning to put you on the spot. I'm sorry if I have.
That was an issue that we pointed out to the sponsor of the legislation, and they were unwilling to change it.
Okay, so we're not aware of the rationale.
Correct. Other than they thought it was a good idea to maintain county representation on the city board, even though there is no ETJ. We explained that this would. I am not aware of any other situation in the state where an ETJ has been. Where there is no ETJ, but yet there is county representation on the planning board, unless there is some sort of combined board, and those do exist in some cases. But the general law is that if there is where there is no ETJ, that there is no county representation on the city board.
I'd be interested in learning more about what the intent there is. And also, Jeff, in the presentation, you had a tax reform slide.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Maggie's pulling it up.
Oh, thank you, Maggie.
Okay, so eliminate $320 million. So I mentioned this in the budget work session. I want to mention it to the folks here in the audience and paying attention at home, that what we're looking at here is kind of a broad tax shift out of the North Carolina General Assembly. Lowering corporate income tax rates, doing away with some of the personal income tax rates, and then shifting those taxes onto consumers. And I'm looking forward to seeing a final version of this, because it's obviously still in the works, and I think we can be hopeful that some of these issues will be worked out. But as it stands now, it really is a shift from companies and wealthy individuals to lower and middle income people. This is a significant change in the way taxation is done, and it will mean that folks like me and folks in lower and middle income families are going to be paying these increased sales taxes. And so I just want everyone to be aware that when we talk about lower tax rates, that is a shift. Just as when the General Assembly talks about doing away with utility franchise tax and business privilege license tax, that someone is going to end up paying for those services necessary to run a city. So when you hear that Raleigh's lower in taxes, keep your eyes peeled to see who's going to end up paying for that.
Mayor, that concludes my presentation. If there's no more questions, I'll turn it back over to you.
Appreciate y'all's indulgence on that.
Council, no more questions? Okay. The first public hearing, item A, is a public hearing to consider the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Act Funds Consolidated Action Plan for fiscal years 2013-14 and the resolution associated with that, which is the resolution authorizing submission of the city's consolidated action plan for 2013-14 to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And those two issues will have one public hearing. And Bob, do we need just one motion, right?
Yes,
Okay.
it's a single resolution, correct?
Okay. All right. Welcome, Mr. Sottinger.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. And I'm going to just present a brief overview of the Community Development Block Grant and Home Program, and then tell you about the recommendations for the individual allocations of the funds. The City of Asheville is a Community Development Block Grant entitlement community and what is known as a participating jurisdiction for a four-county consortium that receives home funds. In both cases, the city receives an amount of funds annually from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development based upon the city's size, its relative percentage of low and moderate income persons, and other criteria. And HUD requires the city to develop an annual action plan for the use of these funds. The recommendations on funding are made as part of a competitive cycle. That cycle begins in December with an application workshop. Applications are due in early February. Our decision-making bodies meet in March. We warn and hold a public meeting at the end of April. And on May 15th, thereabouts, we submit our annual action plan to HUD. HUD takes action on that plan plus or minus the 1st of July, and we are then able to begin writing contracts for the use of those funds. So that is the process that is used. In both cases, Community Development Block Grant funds and home funds are primarily designed to benefit low and moderate income persons, meaning those earning 80% or less than median income. The Community Development Block Grant funds are available only in the City of Asheville, and they're available for a wide variety of purposes, including affordable housing, economic development, public services, and public infrastructure. Home funds are available in a four-county area. Those counties are Buncombe County, Madison County, Transylvania County, and Henderson County. The consortium board is composed of representatives of the public bodies of those counties. And those funds can only be used for the provision of affordable housing and directly assisting persons in obtaining affordable housing in those four-county areas. This year, the city has available to it roughly $2.4 million of combined home and CDBG funds. I must inform you that at this point in time, the amount of funds for which we're holding our public hearing and for which we'll submit our action plan are estimates. Even though Congress passed and the President signed the budget based on sequestration, the final allocations to communities and states for both of these sources of funds has not been established by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or we have not been informed of that. And we will likely, probably after the submission of the annual action plan, need to amend final amounts based upon actual allocations. We are hopeful, in fact, that the cuts will be less than anticipated and that we'll be able to bring good news to the city and our consortium members and to our grant recipients. But at this point in time, we don't know that. And so we assumed an allocation in both CDBG and home funds that was 10% less than last year. We were able to buffer that slightly with some additional program income and reallocation of funds that for one reason or another were from projects that were not able to move forward. The important thing to note about Community Development Block Grant and home funds is the level of service that they bring to our communities. Our home and CDBG funds this year will help create an additional 198 new housing units in the consortium area, most of them in the City of Asheville. And will also assist 125 households afford their housing directly. And these are generally persons who have been homeless or in imminent danger of homelessness. So these funds play a big role in helping us end homelessness in our community. And 2,700 Asheville citizens will benefit from the direct services, public infrastructure, and other activities that happen through our Community Development Block Grant Fund that are not housing related. So there is a significant benefit. It's also important to note that these funds alone would not be sufficient to serve these people, and all of our subrecipients significantly leverage other funds. $4 to every dollar of CDBG funds, and $20 to every $1 of home funds that's allocated by this community. So the actual value of these projects is far in excess of the grant funds that we're able to make available. With that said, I'd just like to call your attention to the individual allocations and the amounts available on the screen. First of all, you can see in the Community Development Block Grant Program there is roughly $1.1 million available. And I'm not going to read all of these individual allocations. They have been published and made available both through our member communities and the City of Asheville website. But I did want to note the full amount, and we do allocate all of those funds during the year. And then I'd also like to call your attention to the home program allocations. 19 community development block grant programs are recommended for funding this year, and 12 home programs. And this is the roster of recommendations on the home program. Mayor, with that said, I'm certainly glad to answer any questions that come up in the public hearing or questions of council as you consider these proposed allocations and the annual action plan for the coming year.
Okay, council, we're going to open up the public hearing for public comment. Any member of the community wishing to address council during the public hearing, you can do so at this time. Seeing no one move forward, council will close the public hearing to public comment on this particular issue. Any questions, comments, or motion? Mr. Davis, Chairman of the HCD Committee.
Mayor, thank you. I first want to thank staff for this deliberation. A lot of work goes into the preparation for our deliberation on it. And the Housing Community Development Committee, which is council members Pelley and Smith and myself, really give some thought, and it's one of the most difficult, in fact, usually turns into about 4 difficult days before it's over, but we've got a lot of wonderful providers in this community, a lot of good developers that do a lot with affordable housing. It's difficult to stretch the dollars as far as we do, and we feel like that I don't think we've ever left the process that we didn't regret not being able to fund places that we weren't able to fund, and be thankful for what we had to do with what we did. So it's a difficult day, and you know, we're open to questions. We try to make the best judgments that we can, and I hope that you all looked at these things and gave it good consideration. But with that, I'm going to move that we approve these amounts.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Any further questions or comments from council? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries unanimously. Council, the next public hearing is item B, the public hearing to consider a conditional use permit for La Paladas of Asheville, located at Mills Gap Road, for the construction of a 224-unit apartment complex. As Ms. Bernstein's coming forward, anyone who's wishing to speak on this issue will need to be sworn or affirmed officially. And so if you're sitting in the room and you think you may have a question, you like to speak at public hearings, you enjoy coming to council, you may get an urge to speak, this is a good time to come forward because we need you to be officially sworn or affirmed. If you're an expert in the room and think you may be called upon,
Thank you, Mayor, council members, members of the public. This is a request to review a Level 3 development proposal. The project site consists of a 14-acre parcel located on Mills Gap Road. To orient you, here's Mills Gap Road here at the southern end of the parcel. Hendersonville Road is just off of the map. Sweeten Creek Road is over here to the east, and here's Gerber Road up at the north. The site is currently vacant, as you can see on the exhibit map, and is zoned commercial industrial, as are adjacent parcels, and similar zoning in the area includes highway business, CB2, and industrial. The proposal for this site is to develop a multifamily apartment complex. There's a total of 224 units, a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom configurations. As you can see on the site plans, there's 10 residential buildings. 9 of the 10 are 3 stories in height. There's 1 2-story building. There's also a single-story clubhouse at the entrance. Here's Mills Gap Road right here. And there are 3 1-story garage structures scattered throughout the site. The access is in 3 locations. There's 2 driveways proposed off of Mills Gap Road, and there's a deeded easement providing access right into that shopping center that's adjacent. That's the Earth Fair shopping center on Hendersonville Road. There is parking, as you can see, throughout the site. There's 408 spaces. That doesn't include the covered garages, and there's also a small pervious parking lot right here. Bike parking as well as handicapped accessible parking. There's a 6-foot sidewalk proposed along Mills Gap and a walkway throughout the site linking the buildings. Landscaping and open space will be provided as required by the ordinance. There is some significant existing vegetation, mostly on the east side of the site near the railroad right-of-way, and a lot of that will be retained and preserved and integrated into the development. The project was approved with conditions by the TRC on March 18th and recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission on April 3rd. No comment has been received from the public. Staff feels that the project does comply with the city's basic goals and objectives. It provides infill residential development. It's really an ideal location, especially here just outside of Hendersonville Road with respect to walkability, to the shops and restaurants, transit that runs along Hendersonville Road. So it's a fantastic location for those residential units. We noted, as was noted in the staff report, none of the units are dedicated as affordable, but they are going to be market rate workforce development. So staff does recommend approval of this project as proposed, and that concludes my report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. We'll open the public hearing to public comment, hearing first from the representative from the developer.
The mayor and council, while the developer is making his way up, Ms. Bernstein referred during her staff presentation to the staff report, the TRC staff report, and displayed a number of exhibits on the overhead. And at this time, unless there's any objection, I'd ask that those exhibits and documents be entered into the record of this proceeding.
All right, and we'll accept them.
And secondly, the staff report contains a number of suggested findings, and as council knows, you need to make your decision on the basis of the evidence that you hear, as you perceive it, and you should make your own findings on that. Thirdly, if any of you has any special knowledge of this project, other than familiarity with the site and its location, please disclose that now.
I do. I was on council when we originally designed this idea for plant unit development, and it was master plan, and it's since changed to, I think, was it urban village and then commercial zoning. I mean, it's gone through a lot of configurations, but I've sat on this council and watched it as configurations.
I don't think that familiarity with the history is a disqualifying issue.
Perfect.
And finally, as the state bar has noted, appearance in a representative capacity in a quasi-judicial hearing can be the practice of law. I just need to let you all know that.
All right, thank you very much. Welcome. If you can just state your name for the record.
Okay. I'm William Ratchford. I represent Southwood Realty and its sister company, Triangle Real Estate and Development. We're locally based in Gastonia, North Carolina, right outside Charlotte. We have about 14,500 units that we maintain, run, and own ourselves in a family-owned company in 5 states. Currently, our closest projects are in Henderson County. And right now, we have 2 projects currently under construction. As the owners, we believe this site is perfect for walkability, and it puts a great it puts in a great community prospect for our tenants that we feel represents our company. I'd like for our engineer to speak more about the property and then address any comments about the.
Okay. Good evening. And if you can just state your name for the record.
My name is Tom Jones. I'm with William G. Lapsley and Associates. We're the engineers for the project, and we appreciate you all having us this evening for this project. I just wanted to touch on a little bit kind of the existing conditions and what the plan is. I think Jessica did a real good job of describing the situation. This is basically the existing condition. Jessica had like an overlay, I think, showing the zoning over it. But really, as you can see, it's a site that's been developed in the past. You know, there was a large plant there once upon a time. And now pretty much what's left is some rubble, gravel, dirt, things like that. So that's pretty much the existing situation. So the plan is the apartments, and there's a few little things I'd like to just point out. Basically, I think we've talked about the accesses. Everybody, I think, is familiar with that. The clubhouse will have a pool and also a workout facility, and that's where the mailboxes would be located. Jessica touched on this also. This site plan specifically will allow preservation of there's not much existing vegetation on the site, but what there is, for the most part, can be preserved by primarily developing the area that's already been developed. And on the northeast side is the main area of existing vegetation, and there's a small stream that enters there, and that can be preserved by the current plan. In addition to what you see here, this plan, the landscape plan, incorporates planting 139 new trees, 863 shrubs, also 120 ground cover shrubs. There's a large tree save area as required by the city, and the amount of existing trees that can be preserved will amount to 188 tree credits. I'd like to show you some examples of one of the projects Mr. Ratchford touched on. It's in Hendersonville. It just shows you kind of these will be similar buildings to what's proposed here. You have elevations in your package, but the picture on the top is the clubhouse. It'd be very similar at this site, different setting, but similar building. The picture on the bottom is a typical 3-story, either 2 or 2 and 3 bedroom unit building, and then you see the garage in the foreground. So that's very typical, I think, for what you would see at this location as well. The building on the top is the 2-story. There's only one of those. I think it's building number 7 for this project, but it'll be very similar to this. And then the building on the bottom is just kind of showing you a little closer in a typical building for what they do. I think they have a very nice product, and we're pleased to keep working with them on additional projects. The project does incorporate some green building techniques. This site is, as we've talked about, was previously developed, and so I think that's very favorable here. We're not taking a wooded site, basically. We're taking something that's already been developed and redeveloping it. We're going to preserve existing vegetation where possible. I think Jessica touched on the pervious pavement. We're going to try to incorporate pervious pavement into the project. Also, there may be the opportunity to take some of the construction debris and reincorporate it into the project if it's suitable to use as beneficial fill. And I think that's very favorable to reuse something there. Related to the building, this starts to get out of my area of expertise. It's more for the architects or the owners, but they are going to use Energy Star appliances, and they're going to sub-meter the units and provide water-saving devices for the plumbing. So those are some green building techniques that'll be incorporated into the project. And I guess finally, I'd just like to say from our planning standpoint, to the best of our knowledge, this project meets or exceeds all the requirements in the city of Asheville within the UDO. The owners are not seeking any variances or alternative compliances. I think it's a good project for this property. We also have our James Voso, who's a traffic engineer here, if you have any questions related to the traffic, and that concludes my piece here.
All right, thank you very much. Any other members of the community wishing to address council on this particular issue? We will close the public hearing to public comment. Council, any questions, comments, or a motion? Any questions?
This seems like a really good project and a really good redevelopment of that property to me. I've driven by it over the years and seen, wondered if something would finally happen. So I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further questions or comments from council?
Just a couple of questions. I'd really appreciate y'all taking this site and putting something this nice on it. I was just wondering, what do you anticipate the price points will be for the apartments?
Currently, we're looking somewhere between high 700s to 800s on ones, two bedrooms and 900s to 1000s and threes. It's kind of a weird market there. Somewhere 1,000, 1,100. I think the addition of these units in this area will help the rent. I've heard substantial rent increases in this market, and I think this, in the next, putting this project on will kind of halt those and maybe, keep rents flat for a little while and help this, help this market rate area.
Agreed. I think it will be a really nice relief to a lot of the housing pressures we feel. Obviously, I'd love to see some more affordable units in it, but I do know that what y'all are doing will help take pressure off the housing market, and so thank you.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries unanimously. Council, the next public hearing is a public hearing to consider the rezoning of 10 Old Shoals Road from Highway Business District to Commercial Industrial District. Blake Isselton will make the presentation.
Thank you and good evening. The subject property is near Airport Road off Old Shoals Road. It's near the Wellington Estates mobile home community. The entire parcel affected is, you can see with the red outline here, is about 9 acres, but the portion proposed for the rezoning is about 1/6 of that. It's about 1.5 acres down here in the southeast corner. Currently, the entire parcel here, the 9 acres, is split zoned. There's RM16 zoning here, commercial industrial zoning here, and the current zoning for this area is highway business. The area was annexed in March of 2009 and subsequently was initially zoned in April of 2009. And at the time, the applicant was interested in highway business zoning for this area here as well as the area to the south. There was a concept for an office and retail development, but that never materialized. So the applicant, you may remember that the area to the south here came before council for a conditional zoning to RM16 for manufactured housing community. And now the applicant is interested in converting the zoning here from highway business to commercial industrial. You'll see that the commercial industrial is consistent with the area to the north. The commercial industrial would also allow for a range of uses that are not allowed in HB. For example, industrial, light industrial uses, perhaps recycling, a recycling operation. Staff feels that the proposed zoning is consistent with the area. It would also partially resolve the split zoning situation on this parcel. There are some challenges with providing a buffer between the building here on the west side and the property line. There's limited space there, but that was mentioned, that was discussed as part of the conditional zoning before, which was approved. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval for this rezoning. Staff has not received any communications from the public. And that concludes my presentation. Actually, before I conclude my presentation, I should say that staff feels that this is consistent with the comprehensive plan and other approved plans. Staff finds that the request is reasonable, and staff is recommending approval. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. And with that being said, we'll open the public hearing to public comment. Hearing first from a representative from a developer, if necessary.
Good evening, gentlemen and young lady. He couldn't have explained it any better, so I might as well sit down and let you conserve your energy.
And if you could just state your name for the record.
George Morazani.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, council, we have heard from our developer. Any members of the community wishing to address council? Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public comment. A public hearing to public comment. Any questions, comments, or a motion from council?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. Council, the next public hearing is item D, the public hearing to consider an amendment to the approved conditional zoning master plan site for Hunt Hill Apartments located at 56 Hunt Hill Place to eliminate the Carroll Avenue entrance. Ms. Fields will make this brief presentation.
Yes. Mayor Bellamy, members of council, you're familiar with this property. In June of 2012, you approved an amendment to a previously approved 180-unit multifamily development. At that time, there were 3 access points shown to the major portion of the property, one off of Hunt Hill, one off of Ardmian Drive, and the other one accessing through a parking lot, a church parking lot, to Carroll Avenue. At the time of your approval, that access onto Carroll Avenue was unconfirmed due to negotiations underway. You went ahead and approved the project with the condition that the Carroll Avenue access must be completed as shown on the site plan. If that access cannot be provided, a new traffic impact analysis must be conducted, and this plan brought back for review by Asheville City Council. And that's why we're here today. The negotiations didn't proceed in terms of getting that access point, so there are the 2 access points, and I will remind you that this was what was approved with the original approval for the first time. 180 units with a different developer came through the process. You can note here that in addition to the access change, under this plan, there was a larger building here, and what they've done is kind of break up the structures at that particular location. We have received an amended traffic impact analysis. It's been reviewed and accepted. The traffic engineer for the developer, as well as our traffic engineer, Mr. Moore, are here if you have any questions along those lines. The developer has been in touch with the neighborhood association in this community, and I have received no comments from anyone expressing concern, and staff recommends approval.
Okay, we will hear from the public. We'll open the public hearing for public comment from the community, hearing from a representative from the developer. If you want to do what Mr. Morrison, if you want to say the same thing Mr. Morrison just said, that's fine as well.
No, I'm Chip Kassinger. If you have any questions, I will say that we had a good meeting with Progress Energy last week. That was pretty exciting. We're going to do a new program for energy efficiency for apartments that's not been done before. And they've just offered this program, and since they've been bought by Duke Energy, everywhere else in Duke Energy, they've cut out any of these programs. So Progress is able to continue what they have, but they improved it. And so we're going to be taking the SEER levels to our units to not even close to anybody's got anything like that. And we're excited about that. The other thing that Progress offered is for us to work with their engineers in Raleigh to come up with a program for energy efficiency on the common areas, which has never been, that I'm aware, ever been done. And we have some other things that I enjoyed listening to the fellow with Stacy, because those kind of things, we want to hit all kinds of benchmarks that just haven't been done. So, and we still have all the affordable units, and we're already getting calls that they'll be full the moment we get done. So, but thank you.
All right.
That's all I got to say.
All right. Council, any other members of the community wishing to address council? We will close the public comment portion on the public hearing. Council, any further questions or comments or a motion?
I move to approve the amendment.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. Council, we do have one more public hearing. Item E, public hearing to consider a conditional use permit for the Asheville Market located at 4 South Turner Road to redevelop an existing retail center and construction of a new building and a modification request to landscaping requirements. Ms. Bernstein will lead the public hearing on this issue of the presentation. However, anyone wishing to speak will need to be sworn or affirmed. If you have a desire to speak, like public hearings, may be here, maybe on another issue, and have a desire to speak, we need you to be sworn or affirmed. Anyone else? Anybody that think they may want to?
Maggie, that's about to go. The light is on. The timer's up.
I'll ignore or maybe I'll take heed and try and make it speedy. Thank you. This is another level 3 site plan review. The project site consists of a single parcel. It's 13.13 acres in size. This is located at 4 South Tunnel Road. It's an existing shopping center, as you can see on the Exhibit B map, and I think everyone's fairly familiar with this site. It's most recently was anchored by Kmart, who has vacated the property. It's mostly vacant. The entire shopping center at this point is mostly vacant. There are still a few tenants. There are several existing buildings around the perimeter and tunnel vision up towards the street. Asheville Mall's across the street. This is the demolition plan, just to give you an idea. This proposal includes new construction as well as extensive renovation of existing structures. There will be a full parking lot upgrade and site compliance. There's approximately 91,600 square feet to be demolished, and you can see that's X'd out. It's basically the footprint of the Kmart and Tunnel Vision. Tunnel Vision, the tenant, will be relocated interior to the site, and the parking lot, as you can see, will be upgraded. Here are the 2 existing driveways, and on the site plan, the southernmost driveway will stay in its current location. This northernmost driveway, which was previously oriented into the site, will be oriented northward now. The new construction is basically in the same footprint of the previous buildings, and one other standalone structure is up towards the street. So the total square footage resulting for the project is a maximum of 142,500. There are the 5 existing retail spaces, and the plans show 4 new spaces. Depending on the tenant mix, the final tenants identified, that may be more or less depending on how large or small of a space those tenants are looking for. I mentioned there's significant upgrades to the site. Facade renovations. I know the applicant and their design team would like to give you a little more information on that, so I will keep that very brief. I mentioned the driveway reconfiguration, the parking field being upgraded. There's 576 parking spaces. There's bicycle parking and electric car charging stations. The applicant will also be constructing sidewalk along the frontage on South Tunnel Road, and there will be the installation of a transit shelter on the property, just down here by the northernmost driveway. Extensive landscaping on the site as required by code. There are 2 modifications that I listed in the staff report for landscaping. One is to reduce the required width of the tree islands, and the other is to provide less landscaping, less trees in terms of building impact and parking lot landscaping categories. There are some challenges when you are working with upgrading an existing parking field, and the areas primarily where the treescape or the tree islands are a little bit irregularly shaped is in that area where they've got the constraints of the buildings on both sides, so they're slightly smaller than the required width. The applicant will be installing less trees than the code requires, but they're going to put in larger diameter trees, so the intent of having parking lot landscaping will be effectively met with the larger tree canopy. So staff was supportive of both of those modifications. The project was approved by the TRC on February 4th, and unanimously recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission for approval in March. Staff has received comment and concern, and this was also expressed at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting from a neighboring property owner, and that is of the AT&T store that's right here. This was a new construction, I'm sure you all remember, in 2011 when that building was built, and this, as I showed you on the demolition plan, with the existing configuration, the AT&T utilizes parking that is on this property owner's site. With that reconfiguration, the driveway is in the location where that parking was.
Can you kind of put one above the other so it's so it's we're able to see it kind of before and after?
Is that a little better? So you can see here on the existing conditions, when you come in, most users come into the site, so they're on the applicant's site, and they typically park up here to access the AT&T. And that parking will be cut off with the new proposed law.
So their concern is a loss of parking spaces?
It's loss of parking spaces and an access that's been used for years, but it's parking spaces that are not on the AT&T's property. And as we discovered when the AT&T site was approved as a level 1 in 2011, it was approved to stand alone without that parking. There's parking and access on the opposite side of the building, and this is a little hard to get oriented.
Is that the AT&T site?
This is the AT&T building. Here is that parking I was talking about. The driveway into the site is sort of off the plan. So here's where the movie theater is. Yeah. There is a driveway on the north side of the AT&T site and parking behind the building. It's just, So the site, the AT&T site, when it was approved by that level 1, it stands alone with its own parking and access. The owner of the AT&T site let us know at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that they did have a deeded access agreement that was in existence from 1977 until 2008, but that was let to lapse. So because of that, staff and Planning and Zoning Commission did not support the adjacent property owner's concerns, and we are supportive of the development proposal as it's shown on the plans. We feel that this redevelopment meets with numerous city goals and objectives, including the citing commercial activity at the easily accessible node just off the highway, making use of existing resources on this site, substantial and financial investment to an existing site, promoting transit and alternative methods of transportation with electric car charging stations and the bike parking. So we feel that the project does comply with the city's goals and objectives and the 7 conditional use permit standards. So that concludes my report, and I'm happy to try and answer any questions that you have now and also be available for more questions.
Vice Mayor has a question.
Can you talk to me about, it looks like they're making a space for a bus shelter stop right there. It's kind of in front of the AT&T building, right at the entrance.
Yes. Be right.
You see people standing on the grass there all the time, and I've just wondered why we haven't ever had a bus shelter there. Does this mean there's going to be able to be a bus shelter there?
There will be a bus shelter there. Okay. And they've provided a pedestrian pathway into the site from that bus shelter.
And what about bike lanes on the main road coming into the complex?
They're not showing separate bike lanes on that driveway. So it's.
It's not a requirement, I assume so.
Mm-hmm. We can make it one. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's open a public hearing.
Okay.
The developers may have this wonderful development that they want to tell us about, and they may answer a lot of our questions. So let's open a public hearing to public comment, hearing first from a representative from the development team.
And while the developer's getting ready, Mayor and Council, Ms. Bernstein referred in her presentation to a number of exhibits, including the site plan and the technical review committee report, and a number of things that are contained in your agenda packet. Unless there's any objection at this time, I'd ask those matters to be admitted into the record.
We will enter them into the record.
And Ms. Bernstein also suggested that the evidence supported a number of findings, but I would point out that Council is the one who makes those findings. And you need to make those findings on the basis of the evidence or information that you hear at tonight's hearing. If any of you we're all familiar with the site. If any of you has any special knowledge other than familiarity with the site, or have had any ex parte contacts about this, please let us know now. Okay. And finally, I am required to advise you that the State Bar has ruled that that appearance in a representative capacity in a quasi-judicial hearing can be the practice of law.
Okay. And just remember, this is a conditional use hearing, so you have the time you need to get everything you need on a record.
Okay, I'll try to keep it under 10 minutes if I can.
You just state your name for the record.
Sure. My name's Lyle Darnell. I work with Edens. We are the owner and the developer and redeveloper of this shopping center. I'll also introduce some of my team. I've got Herbert Ames right here, who is also with Edens, Todd Simmons with Freeland and Kaufman, And Tikkun Gottschalk right here. He works with Bob Deutsch and actually is helping us kind of through this whole process here with Asheville. If you don't know much about our company, Edens, we've been around for approximately 47 years. We are a private company. We're based out of Columbia, South Carolina. We actually own 120 shopping centers up and down the East Coast. We've got kind of offices up and down all whatever, but just for your reference, we develop and build for our own account. We're not merchant builders, so we pretty much build and develop to hold. From us and from a development standpoint, I think that we really try to focus in on 3 areas. I think it's trying to make sure that we've got some unique design elements that come with our developments and redevelopments. We've tried to stay focused in on a unique tenant mix that kind of blends nationals, regionals, and locals to kind of keep things interesting. And I think as a result of that, and you'll see through some of the improvements that we make with the shopping centers, that whatever we can do to make sure that the community remains engaged, a good retail environment, something like this, ultimately becomes a third place. I'm sure you understand the third place concept, but community engagement and having people hang around a shopping center and it being more than just a retail environment is pretty much what we pursue as a owner. Most of the stuff that we own is grocery anchored. It's about 90% grocery anchored. How did we end up here? We bought this shopping center back in May of 2004. And we always saw this project as a redevelopment play. We had a very specific tenant in mind when we bought the shopping center. And we waited. I think we knew that the Kmart was not performing that well, and after a while it took us a little, we finally started working closer and closer with Kmart as their sales started to not do as well as they had in the past, and we ultimately reached a point where we knew that we could get the Kmart back. And when we knew we could get the Kmart back, one of the things that we did, we had a lot of opportunities. I think you guys understand that Tunnel Road really is probably the most dominant retail corridor in all of Western Carolina. And I think that it's famous for the amount of sales that it generates there. And we're approached by an awful lot of retailers that wanted to come here for some very big box, some warehouse clubs, some other things. But I think that we felt like we knew that we could pull off a Whole Foods deal, but we needed to wait for a little while to make this thing work. So we chose to deliberately wait, and then when we felt like we could make the Whole Foods piece work, then we kind of struck. So Whole Foods was ultimately the preferred tenant to go here. What's wrong with the center? There's a lot of things wrong with the center. It's horrible looking, for one thing. And now, granted, we have kept this thing as a redevelopment play. The Kmart box itself is not functional. It is so old that back when they were developing Kmarts in the day, they kept those ceiling heights at about 13 feet, where most other boxes or grocery stores need about 17 to 18 feet clear to make this thing work. I think it's clear to anybody who's been there, there's zero landscaping on the site right now. So except way back behind there on property that we ultimately don't own, and there's really not much of a retail mix. So I kind of spoke to a little bit about what was right with the shopping center. I do believe that this is the best open-air retail location in all of Western North Carolina, especially with the fact that you're right across from the mall. And I think that our goal here was to create something that, and we'll kind of get to this, is that we had a great location. We've got a really good tenant to go here. And I think ultimately the goal is to kind of create something that is non-tunnel roadish on Tunnel Road. So I think that you'll see that pretty much Jessica did a good job of explaining what it is that we're going to do. We will tear down the Kmart piece right here. We will add that square footage that currently is there. We need to relocate the tunnel vision into this space right here. We'll create a new out parcel here and create an all-new parking field. We will renovate all of these buildings here, all the new facades, updates, upgrades. You'll see landscaping pretty much throughout. And I'll play into some of these design elements as well. This is all new. This piece will be new as well. This is all existing, but it'll all be redone in the same manner that we will build the new retail. The Whole Foods itself is 35,000 square feet. This will be an additional unit for them in the market. Hold on, let me go. Okay. How are we going to ultimately do this? How do we ultimately create something that's non-tunnel roadish on tunnel road? I talked about it a little bit earlier. I think that you've got to have an interesting design. I think that we need to be very respectful of the architecture that is here in Asheville. Now, I don't think we're interested in duplicating downtown Asheville, but I think there's certainly some very neat architectural aspects that come with the city. There's elements that you can bring into that. And you can see with the addition of wood, some original stone, some painted brick, some other areas there, I think that you also will find that our real focus is going to be from 14 feet and down. That's really where the community gets engaged with the retail. It comes with good connectivity places, areas to gather and sit, a serious focus on the actual fronts and the storefronts of the retailers so that their merchandise can actually do the talking versus having the center do it for them. Wider sidewalks, additional landscaping. We kind of talked a little bit about the electrical charging station that Whole Foods has got. This is the Whole Foods piece right here. I don't know if you've actually been out there. It'll be a left inner store. On the right side will be the outdoor dining area. You've really got some pretty spectacular views over the mountains over there. And I think that this large outdoor dining area we've designed to be a play into that. This is kind of a feel for what that designing area or that dining area will actually look like. Talked about merchandising mix. I don't think you can start with a better tenant than Whole Foods. I mean, what a better way to kind of bring something interesting in there. I think that you'll find that we're going to promote a good mix of locals and regional tenants. I think the national piece of retail can get a little boring, and I think that we've already started the recruitment process of local tenants or original tenants to the area. One thing that we also need to do is we need to be extremely thoughtful about the food piece of the center, because you've got a great food operator. There needs to be 3 or 4 different and quality type restaurant tours in this area and in this center, and there's distinct areas where we'll be putting that retail. And you got to engage the community. At the end of the day, if your retail works and your design is there and there's connectivity throughout, I think that you give reasons for people to stay. And ultimately, the longer they stay, hopefully the more they shop and the more successful the retailers are. But it has to be, it really can't be our center. It needs to be the community center as well. At the end of the day, where are we? We will actually, we're going to, Edens itself will invest about $17.5 million in this redevelopment. There actually will be another $12 or so million that will be invested by the retailers themselves. So you're looking at about a $30 million investment. I think that you're going to find that we have done some calculations where we think there's an additional sales tax revenue of $3.2 million, just kind of based on the increase in sales. $1 million of that will end up coming to Buncombe County. Ad valorem taxes, we're estimating to go up about $180,000. 80,000 of which would come to the city. This isn't our first Whole Foods. We actually, from a ground-up development standpoint, my region alone, this will be our 3rd. We actually own 6 within the company. But you will ultimately see that at the end of the day, you're going to have significant improvements to the site, the mix, the landscaping. One of the things that you'll find, and that we've seen with one that we actually did in Atlanta over there in Columbia as well, is that the surrounding values of the property really kind of have taken a benefit. We know a lot of retailers, and it's as we start to talk to other retailers that really are not in our shopping center, we've had a chance to speak to the others who really expect a sales benefit from what we ultimately do here, and I do think that it'll ultimately increase the value of other properties in and around it. So I think that there will be all boats will rise with the tide. At the end of the day, what is it that we want? I think that we want a center that the market and the area are proud of and that they can pretty much call it their own. And like I said, again, something a little non-tunnel roadish on Tunnel Road. That's all I've got. I've got to say that working with the city, with Jessica, Nate, Shannon, we develop in and around a lot of communities up and down the East Coast. And I've been doing this with this company for 13 years, and it has been one of the best development experiences that we have had in working with the city. So I say that I say that heartfelt. Y'all got a really good team there. So, any questions for me?
Mayor?
Go right ahead.
Yeah. Tell me your last name again.
Is Darnell?
Darnell. Darnell.
Please.
I'm sorry.
I'm getting sensitive to that now.
Well, I live in East Asheville, and there is a lot of excitement in the community about this redevelopment here, and a lot of people are looking forward to what you're bringing in, and so people have high expectations, but what we are excited about that. One of the things that we've been working on in East Asheville was to increase pedestrian connectivity, and just in the last year we've completed lengths of sidewalk all the way along Tunnel Road here, and I think it's going to be real important to folks to have that continue into your development here. And maybe I've just not seen it here, but can you talk about the internal sidewalks systems that's going to be available there?
Let me hit on some of this here. One of the things I think Jessica spoke to is that we will be adding a sidewalk along Tunnel Road right here. And what you can't see right here is that there's going to be a connection sidewalk that connects there up through here, and you will actually have a sidewalk that will connect all the way back into the shopping center. We have a connection point right here, runs out to the bus stop, and ultimately connect over to the AT&T. There's going to be a crosswalk right here. You'll see different connection points here where the ground is. Really up here, it's really important. We've been around shopping centers where people have shopped here and then decided to drive all the way over here, and it's too important for us with some of the stuff that we do. And I do invite y'all to go to our website and look at some of the other products that we put together. Is make sure that you've got easy ways to access all the other retail that you feel safe about going about and doing. So kind of you see the connection here. You actually will have a connection point back to some of the parking. We think that Whole Foods will end up using this as part of their flower and plant shop piece right here. But you can see where the ground points are right here, where you'll have connectivity out to Tunnel Road and back.
Right. And I'm sure it's a little premature to talk about that, but can you talk a little bit more about what the retail mix is going to look like in there?
I start naming tenants and I'll voodoo it, so I really don't want to. I get a little superstitious about that, but I think that if we could have it our way, I think that you're going to find that they'll end up being at least 3 to 4 distinct restaurants. I think that we actually see these buildings back here as being the one iconic restaurant. I think it needs to be locally chef driven. I think that's what it is that we're going to pursue. I don't think that we're after any of the chain or burn bar type restaurants. And I think that that's what Asheville will appreciate specifically. I think that you're going to end up coming in. We're working with a local tenant right now that will end up taking some restaurant space here. We'll have some outdoor dining right there. That probably is a little bit more casual and price sensitive than some of the others. And then you'll have somewhere in the middle. I think people appreciate value, but I think here in town especially, I think people want quality. I think people want quality. People want a good price. So there's the food piece of it. I think this will end up being a fashion play right here. Gosh, if we could get some, we're in some pretty deep conversations with some of the other shops that would kind of play into the outdoor nature, maybe a little bit of the athleticism of the area, how the area is in fitness and some other things there. And we actually will break this box up into 3 different retailers right there. 2 potentially, but I suspect it'll end up being 3. And you'll have a pretty good blend of hard goods, a little bit of soft goods, and kind of a mix in between.
Right. Great. And lastly, for me, can you just speak to the situation with the AT&T retailer there?
Yeah, I can, and it's one of the things is it came out of the Planning Commission meeting. I'm going to pass it over to Todd a little bit and let him speak to it technically, but the Planning Commission asked that we open up conversations with the AT&T owner, which we did, and we have done some studies. I think that the way that this drive is situated is purposeful in the point that Whole Foods is very particular about their parking field and how they ultimately, what is in front of their store and
and how this sits. And we needed to make sure the amount of business that they were going to be doing, that we provided a good, solid parking field for them. One of the things that, and so that has a lot to do with the design, and I'll let Todd go into a little bit more of the detail there. But there will be plenty of pedestrian access and cross access from our parking field up to the AT&T where people wanted to cross over. And like I said, I have never been in a situation with developments that we've done where we brought in this level of redevelopment and this amount of money where all boats didn't rise with the tide. So I would think that it'd be very beneficial ultimately to their sales.
All right. And council, we have, sounds like Todd.
Yes. I think Todd can speak more to the technical aspect of that.
Todd, if you could just state your name for the record, please.
Yes, Todd Simmons, Freeland and Kaufman, civil engineering firm out of Greenville, South Carolina. Can we flip it back to that one? That'd be great. You know, one thing that did come up in the planning and zoning meeting was obviously this connection point that used to exist here. And really it was, you know, the driving force that we had. You know, we had to create a usable parking field here, and in so doing, you know, I don't know how familiar you all are with it, but it's pretty steep now. So we had to cut that down to flatten these grades and to get a more usable field here in order to adequately serve the buildings here. So that's what necessitated the need to bring the drive aisle over. It had a secondary benefit that it actually helped line up this driveway with the driveway across the street at the mall to kind of provide a more direct, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with it again, but it was kind of a skewed access here. So bringing that over helped align that. So what you did, you know, from a grading standpoint, topography is always an issue up here, and that was the issue we had. You know, we've got a fixed point here from an elevation standpoint. We've got a fixed point here from an elevation standpoint. So in order to get down from here to here, it kind of sets what the elevations of this road needs to be. In so doing, what it did is created about a 5-foot grade separation between the existing AT&T parking lot and the new driveway location. So we have looked at trying to put a driveway connection in here. We've really visited it, you know, a couple of different times, and I think we keep coming back to the same conclusion that we don't believe that it's a safe maneuver to put a driveway in here. You know, if you were to put a driveway in here, you're probably talking about a driveway on the order of 14 to 15% grade. You've got an extremely close proximity to the intersection, which DOT, I think, would have an issue with. And, you know, from general traffic guidelines, I think for high volume generators, I think you all would like to see 200 feet back before you would have a driveway. We can't get that. So, you know, what you've got, if you try to do a full movement here, you've got the possibility of somebody coming in here. If you've got a queue for a signal here and somebody stopping trying to turn left across there, could potentially create an unsafe situation here for a left turn movement. So, and conversely, we actually even looked at, okay, you know, if you were to do just a right out to give them access, but again, you've got a steep slope, and then you've got the potential for somebody wanting to try to kind of weave over and get into the left-hand turn lane, crossing lanes of traffic and causing a problem there. So, you know, from our standpoint, from an engineering standpoint, I think, you know, the grade differential is just too much to overcome, and do not think it would present a safe access point.
Can we maybe ask Ken Putnam to speak to this?
Sure.
Ken?
Well, let us hear any other members of your team who would like to make a presentation, or is this it? All right. Any other members of the community wishing to address council? Yes, if you could come forward and state your name for the record.
I'm LaVoy Spooner. I'm with AT&T, and the situation there has been well described. First of all, we think this is an excellent redevelopment of that whole property. We're in favor of that. Our concern is that with our retail store that's an established business, the primary access to our business has been the cross-connectivity from the big lot there. By redirecting that entry to the big parking lot, it will cut off that primary access to our property, leaving us with what was a secondary access, which is the driveway to the north of our building. So we think that'll significantly impact our customer traffic. And we're also concerned with the remaining drive, which is to the north of the building. We think that'll present a safety hazard as people going south on Tunnel Road will have to cross 2 lanes of traffic to turn into that lot. Conversely, people going north will have to cross 2 lanes of traffic. There's no traffic signal there, and we think, with all the high volume of traffic on Tunnel Road, that would present a pretty major safety concern. So that's our concern with the redirection of that driveway there. Where again, we're not concerned about losing the parking spaces that exist. We're concerned about losing the cross access from the big parking lot.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the community wishing to address council? If you come forward and state your name for the record.
Good evening, I'm Jack Summers, and I'm the owner of the AT&T building. And I'm here, I live in High Point, and I wanted to come over and echo everything that's been said. It's going to be a great development for the community. It's going to be a great neighbor. In contrast to Ms. Bernstein's focus on the loss of parking, that is not our concern. It is the access. And we are simply asking for the access to be maintained. In the P&Z notes, it says 1997 to 2008. That's incorrect. It was 1977 to 2008. We had a deeded access. We asked for continued deeded access, and we were denied that by the developer. So we had an established traffic flow for almost 40 years that you're going to be disrupting that. I did consult with the state and regional DOT with these maps, and they say that connectivity, they encourage connectivity, and it's on the websites. And at the regional DOT level, they feel like it is feasible to actually maintain that access, even if they had to drop down slightly as far as the slope goes and bring it in slightly below where it is now. But they feel like, it could be done. As Lavoie said, our concern is southbound signal access so that all cars, and someone brought up the bus stop. Think about, you're going to have cars shooting across multiple lanes right toward the bus stop traffic that is the crossover access to the mall. So, and that's going to be, another safety concern. And another concern that I have that you may not want to hear about is that Jeremy Goldstein is vice chair of the P&Z. He is also legal counsel for these folks. And I know that he abstained from the vote, but we all know that it's a small community and a lot of friendships. And so with that, we have a concern that there could be a conflict of interest according to the American Bar Association as far as successive representation. And so I request that the developer simply keep the access open, whether it's a right turnout only or whatever it needs to be, so that the folks will still have, going southbound, a signal access. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other members of the community wishing to address council on this particular issue?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. My name is Tikkun Gottschalk. If I could take a moment and address some of the legal issues, some of which you've heard already. I'm a lawyer here in Asheville. I've been helping Edens with this project. I have examined the title to the AT&T property in the corner that we've been talking about, and would offer into the record that examination with the deeds that will come up.
If you would just head into the city clerk. Thank you, sir.
I'll not be going through all of those, but to suffice to say that there, as you've heard, there was an easement granted for the predecessor entitled to the AT&T property, which is expired. And it expired, as you heard, in 2008, was not renewed. And so there really is no legal right for the AT&T owner, the owner of that property, to insist on access over this particular property. In fact, I'd like to just point out to the council that in your analysis of this particular project, the key question is, will this project, if approved, substantially injure a neighbor, a property owner? And I think it's been suggested that by the owner of the AT&T building that this will. And traditionally, this council, the courts, any judge that might review this will look to see if there is an actual appraisal showing that injury to the value of the property, which you've not seen today. Certainly had plenty of opportunity by the owner of the AT&T building to present an appraisal. Nothing's been presented. And I think, to the contrary, what you've heard tonight is that, in fact, this project could very well increase the value of that property. And that's the key question: what's the value of the property? Not will customers be forced to go a different route to get to the building. So just to remind you that that's what we're talking about, is actual injury, substantial injury to this particular property, and it's just simply not been presented to you any concrete information to that effect. And the other point I'd like to make is that this is, from a legal perspective, this project is not the thing that will cut off this access. The owner of the AT&T building does not have this right to use this access now. Yesterday, a year ago, in 2008, the owner of the Kmart Plaza could have cut this access off back then, and then we would not have this conversation. In other words, this project is not what is causing, or doesn't have to cause, this particular cutoff in access. And I would suggest to you that that's really what your analysis is whether this particular project will cause any diminution or a reduction in the value of this neighboring property, and it's simply not the cause of it. And I think you have to be careful in evaluating this type of issue, because if in fact there is no access and this issue comes up again, it sort of encourages owners to not be good neighbors and cut off every access that they possibly can, so this issue will not come up. Where there's simply a voluntary neighborly agreement, yes, you can use our parking and we won't object to it, which is really what has been happening for the last 5 years. They've simply not objected to them using the parking lot. And I don't think they should be punished, essentially, for being neighborly for those 5 years. So I'm happy to answer any questions on these particular issues that the council may have. But that's
all right.
mine.
And I think we're going to hear from our city traffic engineer. Major. If we need a transportation director, we'll get you next.
He's standing by to tag team me if necessary. Your Honor and council members, this is a difficult situation from a traffic engineering perspective, including the North Carolina DOT, which I do have some familiarity with. Cross-connectivity of developments is definitely desired anytime it's possible. Anytime that you can allow traffic to flow without having to get onto the main road, that is definitely desirable. The situation here, from my perspective, my understanding is, as a traffic engineer, can I require that of a property owner to grant that? To say that the maneuver to leave the AT&T store to go out onto Tunnel Road is a dangerous maneuver, I wouldn't say. I might say it's a little sporty at times. But to call it dangerous, then perhaps that should be visited and determined if that access should be allowed to stay open if it's dangerous. I wouldn't call it dangerous. At times, it's busy. At times, a left turn, you may want to make a right turn, or you may wait until the signal gives a gap. So there are several issues brought up. Certainly, we would not want a dangerous situation to occur, but to call that dangerous, I would not. If the property owners can come together, that would certainly be desirable. If there's something could be found that would allow one to lower, one to raise, to meet the grade somehow, that would certainly be, we'd certainly like that if it could be done safely. Are there any questions I could answer, anything I could elaborate on?
Okay.
I have a question about sidewalk, but that's probably not your...
And sir, I do have something I can add about some good news about sidewalk.
Yeah, will it be, what I'm wondering is, will it be continuous? I mean, it will be.
If you'll please excuse the artist's rendition here in the drawing and the writing, one of the things that was stipulated in the staff report would be that a pedestrian phase would be added here, and a crosswalk, and a pedestrian phase added here to Cross Tunnel Road. And coordination will have to be done with NCDOT because it is their signals. They will have to do that. But that will be added. So you will be able to access Dick's Sporting Goods or that area on a continuous sidewalk with pedestrian phasing there.
Well, my question was going to be, it'll be also continuous to the AT&T building.
Yes, sir. I believe that...
I mean, if you're standing where the bus shelter is going to be, you'll be able to walk over to the AT&T building, right?
Yes, sir. I believe there's sidewalk. Oops, I'm not showing my... Here we go. I believe there's sidewalk right here. It's not shown on these plans.
That's why I was wondering.
But this, yes, sir. I apologize for the extra information.
Can you leave your picture up because it's a little closer in?
Straight in.
Other way.
I'm sorry.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, there will be ADA sidewalk access.
Sir, okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions?
I've got a question for Mr. Oath once the public hearing is closed.
And that's what I want to close. And so, any more questions? All right, we're going to close the public hearing to public comment, and this way we can ask, council can ask all the questions that we have. Councilman Hunt?
Bob?
Major, I do want your picture back. I do want his back. Thank you.
I'm curious as to the balance between the duty between neighboring property owners to work out inter-property arrangements access-wise versus the role of a local government through its zoning authority to impose the requirement that there be cross-access. What is your take on whose duty is it? Is it typical routine for local government to impose cross-access requirements through a zoning action?
It's difficult when you're dealing with owners of separate properties. As Ms. Bernstein pointed out during her presentation, the AT&T building was approved as a level 1 standalone project, and the access that's been there has been nice to have, but it's not been required. I think that if the applicant has presented evidence that in your mind satisfies all 7 elements of the conditional use permit standards, that the application cannot be denied. And when we've heard Mr. Moore say that he does not believe that in his opinion, that it will create a hazard or undue traffic congestion. So in the absence of I think certainly that the cross access can be encouraged. I'm not sure in this case that requiring it would be appropriate.
Thank you.
You know, Bob, I appreciate what you're saying, but sitting at this table and even just a couple of weeks ago and hearing the issue that exists on Hendersonville Road with the residents of Crowfield not having a safe way to access Hendersonville Road, I have tried to cross Tunnel Road from that side street, and it's nearly impossible to turn left to get down the street to get to another shop down south if you don't want to go the longer way from AT&T property. And I see very well. I don't think that that's safe. I don't think they met number one if they cut off the access. The access has been in existence since 1977 up until 2008. The property owners before us were all the property owners at that time. So while it may not, I don't know what word you just used regarding the issue of it shouldn't happen that we do this, put a regulation, but it's hard for me to approve this project, as wonderful as it is, by them cutting off a neighbor that has had access for years. And if it's great, then they need to go lower down and provide an access lower down. But I don't think that council should approve this based upon the fact, number one, of the conditional use permit findings state that the proposed use or development of the land will not materially endanger the public's health or safety. And you cannot tell me we will not have accidents in this intersection if we approve this without that second access. Very rarely do people use that, the access that people use, I think it's been called tonight the secondary access now. Very rarely do people use that because it's very hard to get onto Tunnel Road from that side. It's at an angle. There's a building there. It's very difficult, and I think we would be lying to ourselves to say that it's not a problem if we have that as a primary access point. So, Council, I'm asking if there's a motion, if it's not denied, that there is additional access put on that new main road that's put there.
The question I would ask is what would prevent people from parking to the right of the new retail along those slots facing Tunnel Road and walking it down the sidewalk and into the AT&T building? You know, parking in the new Whole Foods lot there near the new retail, it's only going to be 100 feet. I mean, it's not a long walk.
Nor is it hard to put in another exit, to put the access so further down the street. The reality is that people are used to coming in that main drive, or will be used to coming through that main drive and want access to AT&T. Why should they be penalized?
Mayor.
Yes.
I mean, I am kind of excited about the plan here, and I think it'll be a major improvement in this area. And I guess my concern about having to force the two property owners to work out some issue about access, and being someone who's litigated several easement cases, I guess my concern more is, I mean, by that rationale, we would never approve anything on Merriman Avenue again. I mean, you have to turn left across 2 lanes of traffic to get into pretty much every business on Merriman Avenue if the business is on the other side of the road from where you're traveling. And we just happen to have a situation on Tunnel where there's not too many places where you have to do that. There are some others, I think, in the other section of Tunnel Road that arguably aren't as congested, so it's not as challenging. But we have similar situations in the city, and I think that if we start getting involved in trying to work out these differences between property owners, we might run into some trouble. I'm just sort of reacting to this situation.
And I appreciate you bringing up Merriman Avenue, but I have yet to see a new developer proposing a redeveloped property come to City Council and not willingly work with an existing neighborhood. Keeping in mind with Merriman, one of the major redevelopment sites was the Burger King site on Merriman, and Mr. Edney worked extensively with the residents to ensure that they could have access to his property, making sure that his property blended in with the existing fabric of the community based upon the neighborhood residents and the commercial developers. So when we've had developers who had issues in the past, they work closely with neighborhood residents as well as commercial developers to avoid situations like this coming before council. So as I sit here, the situation is different. I can't recall a property on Merriman that has that angle like that once had an access which was clear that was being taken away by a neighboring developer. So it's not apples to apples. It may be that there's danger leaving a spot, but it wasn't caused by a neighboring developer who would not work with the existing developer who has owned property in an area since 1977. I think it's a great development. But number one says it will not endanger the public health or safety, and I'm concerned that the public will be in danger by just sending them out with that angled street to get onto a major highway. And I think the developer should reconsider the consideration of actually having access for that piece of property, whether it's AT&T, whether it's a local business, whether it's Neo Burrito, or what do we love here? Some nice restaurant that we love. Regardless, it's not about the AT&T property, it's providing safety. Councilman Hunt.
Question for our traffic folks. The developer contended that given the slope, the 13 or 14% slope that would have to be used, and the proximity of where that cross access would be relative to Tunnel Road, the closeness, that situation creates safety and congestion concerns as well. What is y'all's evaluation of that?
See, I told you, get sworn or affirmed.
Let me talk about the concern about the closeness to the intersection. Obviously, one of the things that we're trying to do is somehow maintain the internal connectivity so that someone could get in position to make a left turn onto South Tunnel Road. So they need to get into this middle lane right here. Depending on how the signal is timed out and so forth, and the number of cars waiting, the queues are typically going to be backed up, through here. We don't know how far yet, but say 4 to 5 cars. So obviously, if the internal access point right here is in such a position that there's cars blocked here, they're not going to be able to get out. Then they're going to be sitting on this angle at a 15% grade trying to enter that, and they could even drag as they go from that level or that position down onto the driveway itself. They could drag the bottoms of their cars as they make that change. So that's what makes it tricky to do, and I think that's what the engineer was alluding to when he commented a few minutes ago.
And would it be fair to say that there may be some increased, I'm not going to use the word danger, but there might be some increased safety concerns relating to more traffic through the AT&T access, but those could also, there would also be safety concerns coming the other way if that access were provided on that steep slope. So there may be some offset. It's not clear to me, how much they might offset, but it seems that there are offsetting concerns no matter which way you go here.
Well, there are, and I think that one of the things, and I believe the AT&T representative said this, that they would be happy with if it was just an access to allow people to get out. Because the other concern is you don't want people to come in here and stop in this single lane to turn left into here and then back up cars out onto Tunnel Road. And that's would be one of the concerns that the DOT would have. And so that's why they typically like to have a longer throat before they allow the cross movements to be made. I think what vehicles would have to do if it was done close and if the queuing occurred, they would have to rely on people leaving gaps so that they could get in. It is hard to say which is safer. If I had to hazard a guess, I would say that those movements at that point probably would be safer than someone trying to make a left turn onto South Tunnel Road. That's virtually impossible most of the time during the day. You could probably do it now or later in the evening, but during the day it's going to be very difficult because, again, the queuing that's occurring back this way for people waiting for the light to change. There's a lot of traffic on, we all know this. We can see times when it's literally gridlock all the way down on both sides of the road.
And to be clear, staff has not recommended that this approval will be subject to mandating this cross-access. Staff has not made the recommendation that this cross-access be provided for.
Right, we believe it would be highly desirable, but we don't believe that we have the ability to require it. Another complicating fact is, they mentioned that this whole driveway has been shifted over almost to the property edge, and this is an existing wall here. So to move it down here further is going to be difficult, because then you're going to have to make a U-turn to get back, and there's probably not enough room to do it.
And when you say you don't believe we can require it, you mean
Staff.
Staff does not believe that the city of Asheville collectively could.
At a staff level, we don't think that we can require it.
But you think that council might be able to require it?
Well, I don't know. That's Bob's question.
And we got Mr. Ost's opinion. Thank you.
Ken, just along those lines, but if the entrance down by that W, since I'm not down at a point and don't have a pointer, if it was a right in, would that help?
You mean a right out?
No, that people can come in if they go down and make a U-turn and come back in.
Oh, yes.
So they can have a safer way of getting in.
Yes, that would work. But I think the main thing is, the main concern is for those folks that are wanting to make a left turn out to head south on South Tunnel Road is the trickiest move to do. And that's when you're leaving the AT&T site. You want to get back to where the signal is.
And there's no way they can adjust the road.
Well, that I don't know, because again, it goes back to that whole parking field that they tried to create for Whole Foods, and that's why they shifted the road over as far as they have. I don't know how much wiggle room they have with that. But it's probably safe to say that they would virtually have to redesign the whole thing.
The street?
Mm-hmm. To try to accommodate that. I just don't know how much wiggle room they have.
Councilman Smith.
Thanks. Appreciate y'all bringing this project to Tunnel Road. I think it's going to be fantastic there. Getting a grocery there, I think, is something that we've been missing, and so I appreciate what you're doing and like the way that you're bringing it. And I have sympathy for the folks at the AT&T building, but based on what I'm hearing, and I agree with Vice Mayor Manheimer, that I don't think it rises to a safety issue that would scuttle the permit. And so with that, I move to approve the conditional use permit adopting the proposed master plan for the Asheville market subject to the conditions recommended by city staff, and find that the request is reasonable based on the information provided in the staff report and as stated in the staff recommendation.
Second.
And council, I will ask for a delay for them to address this issue with the entrance with the property owners in AT&T. We had an opportunity to see a delay a couple of weeks ago and some good things came out of it when it came to Crowfield. And the developers are Will Bridge, because I do think it's an issue, and I don't want the project to be stopped, but I don't think we should limit the access to the property. And I think this is an important project, and it's going to be one that we could be proud of in the future, but I think it shouldn't hamper this existing business. And yes, it's a nationally known store right now, AT&T, but this property owner's going to be, his property is going to be injured. And there's no denying that. And I think there are safety concerns. So I'm asking since we don't want to put a condition on it, it sounds like, to force the hand for them to work together to find a solution to this. 2 weeks.
Mayor, I understand the request, and my concern with any delay is that it kind of feeds into that ongoing perception that it's hard to get stuff done in Asheville. And
the developer just said how wonderful it has been to work with staff. And I think if staff can't put a condition, they highly recommend this issue. They're saying they can't put a condition on it, but they highly recommend it.
I'm not in favor of delay. I don't know if anyone else on City Council is in favor of a delay at this point.
Councilman Bothwell.
I have a question.
I'm very sorry.
You're not sworn or affirmed, and before you address the council, you need to be sworn or affirmed.
All I want to just say is...
Mr. Dortch, you need to be sworn or affirmed.
I'm very sorry to interrupt.
Mr. Dortch. Mr. Dortch.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I swear. So, Madam Mayor, you may not be aware that after the Planning and Zoning meeting, that the parties had a meeting out in the hall where we submitted all the elevations of our required area to the AT&T owner so that he could have his engineer submit a proposed solution to us. We have received nothing. I myself called the AT&T representative 2 times this week to ask him if they had any information I didn't get any return callback. And I just think that if you scuttle this project because of this, it's a classic example of the tail wagging the dog. You will be condemning this this property because because the reason why this property works is because you get Whole Foods in there. Whole Foods lays down their requirements about what they have to have. The road has to get moved. Believe me, they would not like to move the road. It's very expensive for them to move the road. If they have to move the road, it's only to level out the parking area. And I just want to emphasize one more time that there's evidence in the record that there's no legal right to have access. And I think with all due respect to you, because just based on your perception that there's a lot of traffic out there, I don't think that you should scuttle the project. I just don't. I just think it's wrong.
I don't recall saying I would scuttle the project. I asked for the developers on both sides, the property owners, to get together.
We have. We have without any result.
Yes, sir.
Point of order, Mayor.
We allowed him. We allowed Mr. Dortch to address this council, and I'm going to allow him to rebut to provide information as well. Yes, sir.
Should we reopen the hearing?
No, we don't have to. He's asked for comments. But Mr. O's.
I think that the public hearing has been reopened de facto anyhow because of the receipt of this information. So it's up to council, but I don't think that the receipt of this additional information is inappropriate.
Thank you.
But the motion is still, there's still a motion on the floor.
It is. Yes, sir.
Regardless of standard procedural debate, knowledge is key in making a wise decision that affects the entire community. Okay? A couple of things. We are addressing southbound Tunnel Road C. And I don't know if you're thinking about it or not, but how about the county expense for accidents and injury for folks that are trying to do that? I mean, that's going to be an increase in cost. Okay? As far as working with the developer, we did meet afterwards, and I signed a letter of authorization for their engineers and surveyors to go onto our property and find a solution that would be workable. We have not heard anything, and I have not received any responses for request. So, there. That's the other side of the story.
Call a question, Mayor.
Is there has to be a motion, so is there support to call a question?
Second.
And so you want, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All right, and there was a question. Yes, Councilman.
Yeah, my question was a simple one, probably for Ken Putnam. Is there any reason why there could be no left turn going out of the AT&T lot?
Yes, that could be done, or the DOT could even go in and make the driveway right in, right out, because the courts have held for years that no property is guaranteed full access. They're guaranteed access, but it can be limited in nature. So if it did become an accident problem, that's two avenues that would be available for the DOT to pursue.
Okay, because I know personally when I have that situation, I often take a right turn and go around the block. And in this case, you could go all the way around into the Whole Foods lot, around the men's clothing and whatever is, up around. I mean, it's not like you're taking a huge detour, in my view. Anyway.
Councilman Kelly, you're the only one who hadn't spoken on the issue.
Well, I do agree with Councilman Hunt on this, that there's countervailing challenges to this. But ultimately, I think given that the AT&T property owner was aware that this is expired, and the overall benefit of this this redevelopment, I will be supportive of it.
Okay, any other comments? The question was called, but the rules also allow for those who have not spoken have an opportunity to speak on the issue. So Councilman Kelly was the only one who hadn't spoken. And like I said, it's a great project, and I wish council would ask the developers to work together to find a solution so that the property will not, this new development or redevelopment would not injure the existing property. I'm going to vote for it, but if there are any accidents, I do want to see what we can do to mitigate this issue. And so I would love to have this come back before council in the next 6 months, because that will be before the election. And so nothing will be changed, but I don't know when the construction on the road will begin, and I don't know how that's going to work. And so it will be within the time that I'm still mayor. And so in 6 months, I don't know how fast the road's going to be done. Usually the infrastructure is done first. And so it sounds like this is going to be a pretty aggressive project, and with the nods, it's going to move pretty swiftly. And so can we just see what's happening in 6 months as it relates to that the access behind AT&T, the property. And I hope the property owners will continue to talk, and I hope you hear from the engineering staff that you've signed over the permission form so that something positive can come out of it for you. Thank you all. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. Still the mayor to December 3rd. Stop me, shut up. Just so you know. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's just not going to stop me from talking. Unfinished business is next. I don't have anything printed. I do have a couple of people who have signed up to talk to council. And council, I do want to put on the record, we did receive a petition from community members. A petition to continue bus route 51 to Biltmore, and I wanted to make sure that that was entered to the public record, that I received this officially. And that was given to me at the work session today. Council, any other comments?
Is it, I just have a general comment. Is that after the public?
No, because we're going to close session after
right.
that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when we pass fees and charges, when council passed fees and charges, there was, I think, inadvertently an increase in the fees for the farmers markets, which kind of goes against the spirit of what we passed with the food action plan in January. And so what I was hoping was, with the indulgence of the manager and the mayor and the rest of council, that we could revisit the fees and charges specifically for farmers markets on an agenda in a couple of weeks.
If that's a motion, I'd second it.
If it needs to be a motion, it is.
It would be helpful to have that direction. We could be prepared. I will also, and just add to your comment, I'm aware from our advisors in Raleigh that a bill's been introduced out of frustration with the permitting fees to grant urban farming and markets by right in municipalities all across North Carolina. We'll share information on that with you as well.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any member of the community wishing to address council on this issue of putting it on the agenda for consideration? All right, any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. We have a couple of people signed up to speak to City Council. Number one is Timothy Sadler.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Timothy Sadler, and I'm here to advocate for keeping Saturday service for the transit system, but not only that, for fully funding the system as it currently stands. There are 3 routes that are incredibly problematic currently, and they require better service for those routes to properly work. Unfortunately, the three routes that are having the most difficulty are routes that the people who need the help, the service the most, are not getting. It's the students at AB Tech, it's the veterans who have to get out to the veterans quarters, and it's folks in the public housing on South French Broad. So, I'm advocating here to not only see Saturday service maintained, but to actually increase the budget of the transit, which for 5 years now has been flat. And I think that needs to change. I'd also like to voice my opposition to to an employee of the gas company being appointed to the sustainability committee. That has nothing to do with sustainability. Fracking is a tremendous problem for our environment, and I wanted that to be on the record. Also, if we could move up public comments, I think that conversation has been started to have public comments at the beginning, and then at the end it would be, I think, it would be working to support the folks to be able to speak. You know, not everybody's willing to wait until the end of the meeting to give public comments, and if we could have public comments moved up into the meeting, I think that would be wonderful. So thank you all for your consideration.
All right, thank you very much. Next, we have Michael Palmer.
This is kind of a surreal moment for me, and also deeply profound. This is my first city council meeting ever in any city.
Well, welcome, and if you could just state your name for the record.
Oh, Michael Palmer is speaking. Sure. So, yeah, and no experience public speaking, save like, you know, presentations in college and high school and whatnot. So this is fascinating to me, the whole process. And what I wanted to get across was that I am here speaking, that I'm nervous, I'm shaking, but I'm speaking. And there's something in that conviction, you know?
It's okay. Take your time.
3 minutes?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I wonder, you know, okay, so been in Asheville for about 4 months now. Came from Louisville, Kentucky. Went to college in Cincinnati to Xavier, studied physics from 2005, 2009, but I didn't graduate. And there's some other things that have been kind of patterns in my life that kind of facilitated this crack falling through process. So I'm educated. I think I'm pretty smart. Went to a good school, have a great family, but I fell through the cracks, and I've been living well below the poverty line for the last 2 years. Thank goodness for my family. And so I found some really cool people in Asheville, and the common theme that runs throughout all of them is this aspect of community, and kind of humans as a resource. And at first that sounded kind of weird to me, but then it started making sense when the semantics of that language is not just humans as, like, you know, this productive worker bees, but like the whole human, you know, the health of the human, the heart of the human, the worldview of the humans, you know, and what happens, I think, if the human is whole and healthy, then just as a byproduct, they become good. Is that 3 minutes?
It is.
Oh, shit. Just economics.
It's coming in a couple of weeks.
It's coming in a couple of weeks.
It is.
And so I just want to reach out and maybe initiate a dialogue. I'm doing the Voices class, and some of the things that I've seen is kind of this lack of communication between what's going on in the city and what the needs are of us people, you know. So I just want to throw that out there, if we can talk for our Voices project.
Okay.
Can we do that? Maybe table it?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Before you leave, you did a good job. It's not easy coming before us.
No.
And you did a wonderful job. And just keep coming, keep telling your story. It's okay. 3 minutes is your government. You can do it.
Cool.
Every other week.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, we have a closed session. Need a motion.
Mayor, I move that Asheville City Council go into closed session for the following reason: to consult with an attorney employed by the city about matters with respect to which the attorney-client privilege between the city and its attorney must be preserved, including potential litigation. Statutory authorization is contained in GS 143-318.11A3.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. Any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. We're going to closed session, and we will adjourn from there.